सरकार बनाएंगे ना, भाजपा की सरकार बनाएंगे ना, पूरा पक्का विश्वास है। आपका ये जो दमखम है ना, उसमें ही मुझे विजय नजर आ रहा है। साथियों, मैं पठानकोट की इस पवित्र धरती से मुक्तेश्वर महादेव मंदिर और अमृतसर के दुर्गियाना माता मंदिर का प्रणाम करता हूं। ये धरती हरमंदिर साहब और करतारपुर साहब की भी धरती है। इस पवित्र धरती से मैं सभी गुरुओं को श्रद्धापूर्वक नमन करता हूं। आज संत रविदास जी की भी जयंती है। यहां आने से पहले मैं दिल्ली में गुरु रविदास विश्राम धाम मंदिर जाकर आया हूं, आशीर्वाद लेकर के आया हूं। पंजाब से भी बड़ी संख्या में हमारे साथी लाखों श्रद्धालु उनकी जन्मस्थली बनारस गए हुए हैं। यहां से जो यात्री और देश भर से यात्री आज जो बनारस आए हैं, उनकी सहूलियत के लिए जितना कुछ कर सकता हूं, मैंने और योगी जी की सरकार ने करने का प्रयास किया है। यहां के मेरे सभी साथियों की सहूलियत के लिए रेलवे ने 2 विशेष ट्रेन भी चलाई है। और बनारस के सांसद के नाते ये मेरी जिम्मेवारी बनती है कि जब आप मेरे मेहमान बने हो तो मुझसे हो सके उतना श्रद्धालुओं की सेवा करो, बनारस में उनको कोई तकलीफ न हो, उनकी जरूरी सुविधाएं मिले। ये मेरा सौभाग्य है कि काशी में संत रविदास मंदिर परिसर में हमने बहुत बड़ा भव्य लंगर हॉल श्रद्धालुओं को अर्पित किया। मैं आप सभी को और बनारस गए श्रद्धालुओं को भी संत रविदास जयंती की अनेक अनेक शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। मेरा ऐसा सौभाग्य है कि जब यहां मंच पर आ रहा था तो मुझे वाल्मीकि समाज के सभी प्रमुख लोगों ने पवित्र माला पहना करके मुझे आशीर्वाद दिए। मैं वाल्मीकि समाज के भी सभी संतों का हृदय से प्रणाम करता हूं। आज मेरा यह भी सौभाग्य रहा कि कबीर परंपरा के अनुयायी भी आज यहां आकर के मुझे आशीर्वाद दे रहे थे। ये भी मेरा बड़ा सौभाग्य है। और मंच पर आते ही संत शिरोमणि पूज्य रविदास जी के चरणों में यहां भी मुझे माथा टेकने का मौका मिल गया। साथियों, संत रविदास जी का एक दोहा है और ध्यान से सुनिए। और जब ध्यान से सुनोगे तो आपका भी पक्का विश्वास हो जाएगा कि मोदी की सरकार वही कर रही है जो संत रविदास जी कह के गए हैं। संत रविदास जी ने अपने दोहे में क्या कहा है? और उन्होंने ऐसा चाहो संत रविदास जी ने कहा है, ऐसा चाहूं राज में, ऐसा चाहूं राज में, मिले सबन को अन्न, छोट बड़ो सब सम बसे, छोट बड़ो सब सम बसे, रविदास रहे प्रसन्न। संत शिरोमणि पूज्य रविदास जी ने क्या कहा था? उन्होंने कहा था, मैं एक ऐसा राजा चाहता हूं। देखिए, रविदास जी ने कहा है, मैं एक ऐसा राजा चाहता हूं जिससे राज्य में सभी को अन्न मिले, हर कोई एक समान समरस होकर रहे, और जब ऐसा होगा तो स्वाभाविक रूप से रविदास जी प्रसन्न होंगे ही। ये संत रविदास जी ने कहा है। साथियों, सबका साथ सबका विकास के मंत्र, उस मंत्र को लेकर के चल रही भाजपा का आदर्श भी संत रविदास जी के शब्दों से प्रेरणा लेकर के हम आगे बढ़ते हैं। और इसलिए हमारी सरकार के लिए गरीब का कल्याण सर्वोपरि है। आप देखिए, पूरी दुनिया में एक ऐसी महामारी आई है, ऐसी महामारी आई है, 100 साल में कभी ऐसी महामारी नहीं आई, और पूरी दुनिया में फैली है। लेकिन भाजपा सरकार ने संत रविदास जी की इस भावना को प्राथमिकता दी। मिले सबको अन्न। दुनिया के बड़े बड़े देशों में आज कोरोना की वजह से गरीब को हर तरह की दिक्कत आ रही है, खाने पीने की समस्या हो रही है। लेकिन इतने बड़े संकट में, 100 साल की सबसे बड़ी महामारी में, इस काल में भारत करोड़ों देशवासियों को मुफ्त में राशन उपलब्ध करा रहा है। कोई भी ऐसा गरीब ना हो जिसके घर में चूल्हा न जलता हो। भाई, ये काम करना मेरे लिए एक पवित्र सेवा का काम था। पंजाब के भी लाखों गरीबों को 2 साल से मुफ्त राशन मुहैया कराया जा रहा है। हमने प्रयास किया है कि महामारी के इस समय में कोई भूखा गरीब हमारे यहां गरीब भूखा न सो जाए। कोरोना की वैक्सीन भी हमारी सरकार ने मुफ्त मुहैया कराई। गांव-गांव जाकर के मेरे देशवासियों का जीवन बचाने के लिए रात दिन काम किया, और दुनिया में जो नहीं कर पाए वो काम हिंदुस्तान ने करके दिखाया। करीब करीब 95% से ज्यादा लोगों को पहला डोज तो लग ही चुका है, और दूसरा डोज भी करीब करीब सबको लगने की दिशा में तेज गति से काम हो रहा है। और वैक्सीन की वजह से लोगों को कोरोना से लड़ने के लिए बहुत बड़ा सुरक्षा कवच मिला है। भाइयों बहनों, आप सबने वैक्सीन लगवाई है ना? मुझे बताइए, वैक्सीन लगवाई है ना? आपको एक नए पैसे का खर्चा हुआ है क्या? आपको कोई दिक्कत हुई है क्या? मुझे बताइए, ऐसे संकट के समय ये पवित्र काम मुझे करना चाहिए था कि नहीं करना चाहिए था? देशवासियों को वैक्सीन लगनी चाहिए थी कि नहीं लगनी चाहिए थी? भाइयों बहनों, इसी वैक्सीन की वजह से अब पंजाब में भी स्थितियां थोड़ी बहुत सामान्य होने के कारण आर्थिक गतिविधियों ने भी अपना जोर पकड़ना शुरू कर दिया है। साथियों, पठानकोट में मैं अभी देख रहा था, कई परिवारों से मैं हाथ उठा करके सबको नमस्ते कर रहा था। सारे पुराने लोगों के चेहरे आज मेरे सामने थे। एक साधारण कार्यकर्ता के रूप में कभी टू व्हीलर पर आता था, कभी रेल के डिब्बे से यात्रा करके पहुंचता था और आपके पठानकोट आता था। कभी जम्मू से दिल्ली जाता था तो रात को ट्रेन स्टेशन पे ये पठानकोट के अनेक परिवार मेरे लिए खाना लेकर के आते थे, मुझे टिफिन का डब्बा पहुंचाते थे। ऐसा जीवन का महत्वपूर्ण समय मैंने आप लोगों के बीच में बताया है। यहां की माताएं बहनें अपने बच्चों को कहती हैं, जहां लगेगी रज तो बढ़ेगा गज। याद है ना? इस हमारे माझा इलाके में हम सुनते हैं। यानी जैसे जैसे शरीर को मिट्टी लगेगी, कद भी बढ़ेगा। माझा की इस मिट्टी ने मुझे मां जैसा प्यार दिया है, मां जैसा स्नेह दिया है। लेकिन जिस तरह से मुझे और भाजपा को जरा सुनना पड़ेगा, आज आपके घर में आया हूं, बताऊं ना? कोई कड़वी बात बताऊंगा तो बुरा नहीं लगेगा ना? ऐसा नहीं, जोर से बताइए। थोड़ा कड़वी बात बताऊं तो बुरा नहीं लगेगा ना? पक्का नहीं लगेगा ना? तो बता दो, बता दो। अब देखिए, आपके बीच में मैं इतने साल रहा, आपकी रोटी खा करके मैं बढ़ा, लेकिन जिस तरह से मुझे और भाजपा को हिंदुस्तान के अनेक राज्यों में सेवा करने का अवसर मिला, वैसा अवसर मुझे पंजाब की सेवा करने का नहीं मिला है। और पहले भी हमारा हाल क्या था? पहले हम यहां भी एक छोटे पार्टनर के रूप में, छोटे दल के रूप में सरकार के साथ एक हाशिए में किनारे पर साथ साथ चला करते थे। पंजाब की शांति के लिए, पंजाब की एकता के लिए, पंजाब के उज्जवल भविष्य के लिए हमने हमारी पार्टी का नुकसान करके पंजाब का भला करने को प्राथमिकता दी थी। लेकिन आज मैं आपसे मांगने आया हूं, मुझे 5 साल आपकी सेवा करने का मौका दीजिए। मैं आपको भरोसा देता हूं, मैं आपको भरोसा देता हूं, किसानी, व्यापार, इंडस्ट्री नो लाहेबंद बनाया जाएगा। गरीबां ते मजदूरां नूं उन्हां दे एक दिते जाणगे। पंजाब नूं महफूज अते चढ़दी कलावा विच रखावे। साथियों, जनता जब भाजपा को मौका देती है, फिर न जनता हमारा हाथ छोड़ती है, न जनता हमारा साथ छोड़ती है, और न हम जनता की सेवा का काम छोड़ते हैं। हम इतने राज्यों को जहां जहां हमको सेवा करने का मौका मिला है, जरा देख लीजिए, विकास का जो सिलसिला भाजपा की सरकार में शुरू होता है, जनता भी ऐसा साथ देती है, ऐसा साथ देती है कि कभी विकास का काम रुकता नहीं है। एक और बात भी आपने देश भर में देखी होगी, जहां एक बार भाजपा के पैर जम जाते हैं, वहां दिल्ली में बैठकर रिमोट कंट्रोल से सरकार चलाने वाले परिवार की छुट्टी हो जाती है। मतलब जहां विकास आया, जहां विकास पहुंचा, वहां वंशवाद का हुआ सफाया। जहां शांति और सुरक्षा आई, वहां तुष्टीकरण और भ्रष्टाचार की विदाई। यही विदाई इस बार पंजाब में देनी है। भाजपा के विकास, पंजाब के विकास के साथ नवा पंजाब के लिए मेहनत करने में कोई कसर भारतीय जनता पार्टी नहीं छोड़ेगी, ये मैं आपसे वायदा करने आया हूं। साथियों, आपका प्यार मेरे सर आंखों पर, दोस्तों, आपका प्यार मेरे सर आंखों पर। जो दिल्ली में एयर कंडीशन कमरों में बैठे हैं ना, उनको पता नहीं है ये प्यार की ताकत क्या है। पठानकोट और मांझा की ये धरती वीरों की धरती है, वीरों की धरती है। यहां घर घर से नौजवान देश की सुरक्षा के लिए सीमाओं पर सेवा दे रहे हैं। इसी मांझा से गुरुओं ने सिख धर्म को भी विस्तार दिया था। लेकिन सरकार अगर संस्कारों के खिलाफ चलने वालों की हो, तो वो विरासत और पहचान दोनों को मिटाने के लिए लग जाती है। कांग्रेस ने पंजाब और देश की शान के खिलाफ क्या क्या कुकृत्य नहीं किए। इसी पठानकोट पर जब पाकिस्तानी आतंकियों ने हमला किया था, तब देश उस संवेदनशील मौके पर एकजुट था। लेकिन कांग्रेस पार्टी के नेता क्या कर रहे थे, आप मुझे बताइए, जरा आप मुझे जवाब दीजिए। इन लोगों ने सैन्य के शौर्य के खिलाफ सवाल उठाए थे कि नहीं उठाए थे? हमारी सेना पर शक किया था कि नहीं किया था? मेरी इस धरती के लालों पर शक किया था कि नहीं किया था? इन्होंने शहीदों की शहादत पर कीचड़ उछालने का पाप किया था कि नहीं किया था? और आप देखिए, पुलवामा के हमले की बरसी पर भी ये कांग्रेस के लोग अपनी पाप लीला को बंद नहीं कर पाए, बाज नहीं आ रहे हैं। वो हमारी सेना की बहादुरी को फिर से सबूत मांगने लग गए हैं। मैं वीर जवानों को और पूर्व सैनिकों का आभार व्यक्त करता हूं कि उन्होंने मुंह तोड़ जवाब देकर के कांग्रेस ने मुंह पर ताले लगा लेने की कोशिश की है। अब आप लोग ये तय करिए, क्या पंजाब जैसे सीमावर्ती और संवेदनशील राज्य की सुरक्षा ऐसे लोगों के हाथ में हम दे सकते हैं क्या? ऐसे लोग आपको सुरक्षा दे सकते हैं क्या? ऐसे लोग आपका भला कर सकते हैं क्या? ये आपकी चिंता कभी कर सकते हैं क्या? अगर इन्हें फिर से मौका मिल गया तो ये पंजाब की सुरक्षा को खतरे में डालने से पीछे नहीं हटेंगे। पहले कभी कांग्रेस में कैप्टन साहब जैसे लीडर थे, उनको इस गलत रास्ते पर जाने से रोकते थे, अब तो वो भी वहां नहीं है। और इसलिए 20 फरवरी को पंजाब की सुरक्षा को ध्यान में रखते हुए भाजपा को, एनडीए को वोट देना है। ढींडसा साहब और कैप्टन साहब की पार्टियां भी आज हमारे साथ पंजाब के उज्जवल भविष्य के लिए हमारे साथ जुड़ी है। 20 फरवरी को पंजाब में शांति और अमन के लिए भाजपा को वोट देना है। 20 फरवरी को पंजाब के विकास के लिए भाजपा को वोट देना है। साथियों, देश की सुरक्षा को मजबूत करने के लिए हमारी सरकार सेनाओं का लगातार आधुनिकीकरण कर रही है। जब सैनिक के पास आधुनिक साजो सामान होता है तो उसकी अपनी सुरक्षा भी बढ़ती है। भाजपा सरकार सेना में महिलाओं को नए अवसर दे रही है। अब हमारी बहन बेटियां भी सेना में देश की रक्षा करने के लिए कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर के खड़ी रहे, इसका प्रबंध हमने किया है। और ये तो वीरों की भूमि है। देखते ही देखते यहां की बेटियां मेरे देश की रक्षा करने में भी आगे होगी, ये मेरा विश्वास है। परमानेंट कमीशन देना हो, इतना ही नहीं, हमने एक बहुत बड़ा महत्वपूर्ण निर्णय किया है। एक हमने निर्णय किया है, देश में नई सैकड़ों सैनिक स्कूल खोलेंगे हम। सैकड़ों नई सैनिक स्कूल खोलेंगे। इतना ही नहीं, उन सैनिक स्कूलों में बेटियों को भी एडमिशन दिया जाएगा। उनके लिए भी सैनिक स्कूल के दरवाजे खोल दिए जाएंगे। भाइयों, मुझे बताइए, मेरी बहन बेटियों को अपनी वीरता दिखाने का अवसर मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा? उनका सामर्थ्य दिखाने का अवसर मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा? ऐसे कई कदम हमारी सरकार ने उठाए हैं। सीमावर्ती इलाकों में हमने जो सीमावर्ती स्कूलें हैं, और जो अच्छी स्कूलें हैं वहां पर स्कूलों में एनसीसी का विस्तार करने का निर्णय किया है। देश में हजारों नई स्कूलें अब एनसीसी का केंद्र वहां भी उपलब्ध हो जाएगा, ताकि सीमा पर देशभक्ति का जो ज्वार है उनको देश के लिए कुछ करने का अवसर मिलेगा। और भाइयों बहनों, इस बजट में आपने देखा होगा, आप तो सीमा के बिल्कुल पास में है। इस बजट में हमने बड़ा महत्वपूर्ण निर्णय किया है और इसका बहुत लाभ मेरे पंजाब के गांवों को मिलने वाला है। हमने बजट में, और ये खोखले वादे नहीं है, बड़ी बड़ी बातें नहीं है, बजट में प्रावधान कर दिया गया है। क्या? सीमावर्ती गांवों में एक वाइब्रेंट विलेज योजना लागू की जाएगी और जो हमारे सीमा के गांव है उनको विशेष सुविधाएं दी जाएगी। वहां पर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बनाया जाएगा, वहां स्किल डेवलपमेंट के लिए काम होगा, वहां टूरिज्म डेवलप किया जाएगा, वहां पर उद्योगों को काम दिया जाएगा। एक नया पूरा सीमा क्षेत्र को बल देने का काम हम करने वाले हैं। साथियों, हम पंजाब को पंजाबियत की नजर से देखते हैं। हमारे लिए पंजाबियत ये सबसे प्रमुख है। ये जो हमारे विरोधी लोग हैं ना, वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ पंजाब को सियासत के चश्मे से देखते हैं। हम पंजाबियत को गहराई से देखते हैं भाइयों। और इसलिए हमें करतारपुर साहिब कॉरिडोर के विकास का सौभाग्य मिला। मैं आज कांग्रेस सरकार के सामने कुछ गंभीर सवाल पूछना चाहता हूं और मैं पूरे पंजाब को गुरुओं के आशीर्वाद लेकर के जीने वाले हर पंजाबी को मैं कहना चाहता हूं, मैं जो सवाल पूछ रहा हूं वो सवाल आप भी पूछिए। आप मुझे बताइए, जब भारत विभाजन हुआ, नेता कौन थे भाई? कांग्रेस के थे कि नहीं थे? थे कि नहीं थे? देश के टुकड़े हुए तब कांग्रेस के लोग थे कि नहीं थे? क्या इनको इतनी समझ नहीं आई कि 6 किलोमीटर दूर सीमा से हमारे गुरु नानक देव जी की तपोभूमि, क्या विभाजन के समय वो 6 किलोमीटर और गुरु नानक देव जी की पवित्र भूमि भारत में रख सकते थे कि नहीं रख सकते थे? रख सकते थे कि नहीं रख सकते थे? रखना चाहिए था कि नहीं चाहिए था? जरा हिम्मत से बताओ, रखना चाहिए था कि नहीं रखना चाहिए था? ये पाप किया है कि नहीं किया उन्होंने? हमारी भावनाओं को कुचला है कि नहीं कुचला है? दूसरी घटना, 65 की लड़ाई हुई, भारत की सेना लाहौर में झंडा फरकाने की ताकत के साथ आगे बढ़ रही थी। बढ़ रही थी कि नहीं बढ़ रही थी? बढ़ रही थी कि नहीं बढ़ रही थी? अगर 65 की लड़ाई में थोड़ा 2 कदम आगे जाते तो गुरु नानक देव जी की तपोभूमि हमारे पास होती कि नहीं होती? होती कि नहीं होती? वो पहला मौका चूक गए विभाजन के समय, दूसरा मौका चूक गए 65 की लड़ाई में, और फिर बांग्लादेश की लड़ाई हुई। बांग्लादेश की लड़ाई हुई, 90,000 पाकिस्तान के सैनिकों ने हिंदुस्तान की सेना के सामने घुटने टेक दिए। 90,000 सैनिक हमारी कैद में थे, हिंदुस्तान की कैद में थे। अगर दिल्ली में बैठी हुई सरकार में दम होता तो उनको कह देते कि 90,000 सैनिक तुम्हें तब मिलेंगे जब हमें हमारे गुरु नानक देव की तपोभूमि वापस मिलेगी। ये काम उनको करना चाहिए था कि नहीं करना चाहिए था? तीन तीन बार मौके मिले, उन्होंने गवा दिए। तीन तीन बार मौके मिले, गवा दिए। भाइयों बहनों, मैंने आज लड़ाई तो थी नहीं, कूटनीतिक ताकत से कॉरिडोर बनाया और कल तक जो दूरबीन से गुरु महाराज की तपोभूमि के दर्शन करते थे, आज मेरे श्रद्धालु वहां जाकर के दर्शन कर करके आ जाते हैं। भाइयों, मुझे बताइए, ऐसे शासकों के लिए सवाल बनता है कि नहीं बनता है? ऐसे लोगों पे कोई भरोसा कर सकते हैं क्या? भाइयों बहनों, हम तो एक समर्पित लोग, हमें विरासत के भी गर्व है और विकास की जिम्मेवारी भी हमारे सामने है। हम गुरुओं के प्रकाश पर्व को पूरी आस्था से सिर्फ हिंदुस्तान में नहीं, पूरी दुनिया में मनाते हैं और भारत की इस महान विरासत की दुनिया के लोगों को पहचान करवाते हैं। लेकिन इन लोगों का इतिहास क्या है? इन लोगों के नाम पर दरबार साहब का अपमान, हिंसा और खून खराबे का कलंक दर्ज है। हम सिख दंगों के आरोपियों को सजा दिलवाते हैं, ये उन्हें अपनी पार्टी में बड़े बड़े ओहदे देते हैं। यही वो लोग हैं जिन्होंने राम मंदिर के निर्माण को रोकने के लिए पूरी ताकत लगा दी थी। काशी विश्वनाथ धाम बना तो उस पुण्य काम भी, उसका भी ये लोग विरोध करते रहे। काशी विश्वनाथ मंदिर को सदियों पहले माझा की धरती से विशेषता रहा है। मंदिर के लिए सोना चढ़ाने का काम उस जमाने में महाराणा रणजीत सिंह जी ने ही किया था। भाइयों बहनों, हम अपनी इस विरासत को देश की एकता, अखंडता से जोड़कर देखते हैं। इससे पर्यटन भी बढ़ता है, युवाओं को रोजगार भी मिलता है, लेकिन उन्हें देश की आस्था और विरासत से ही उनका सुनते ही उनके कान लाल हो जाते हैं, चीड़ है उनको। पंजाब के लोगों ने दशकों तक ऐसे दलों को बर्दाश्त किया, अब उन्हें इस बार भाजपा को मौका देना है। और मैं परसों जालंधर आया था, मुझे यहां से जो खबरें मिल रही है, पंजाब ने पक्का कर लिया है इस बार पक्का परिवर्तन, भाजपा की सरकार। भाइयों और बहनों, कांग्रेस पार्टी की करतूतों का साथ देने के लिए अब उन्हें पार्टनर इन क्राइम भी मिल गया है। पार्टनर इन क्राइम भी मिल गया है। आप देखिए कितनी समानता है दोनों दलों में। जब अयोध्या में राम मंदिर बनता है तो ये दोनों पार्टियां उसका विरोध करते हैं, मिलकर के विरोध करते हैं। जब भारत के जांबाज अपना शौर्य दिखाते हैं तो ये दोनों पार्टी के नेता वही बोलते हैं जो पाकिस्तान से बोला जाता है, पाकिस्तान के सूर में सूर मिलाते हैं। एक ने पंजाब के युवाओं को नशे के जाल में धकेला, दूसरी पार्टी दिल्ली के युवाओं को शराब का लती बनाने में लगी हुई है। भाइयों बहनों, इतना ही नहीं, एक ने पंजाब को लूटा, दूसरी दिल्ली में एक के बाद एक घोटाले कर रही है। ये दोनों एक ही थाली के चट्टे बट्टे होने के बावजूद अब ये दोनों पार्टियां मिलकर पंजाब में नूरा कुश्ती कर रहे हैं। नूरा कुश्ती, WWF आता है ना, हाँ, ये कर रहे हैं जी। ये आमने सामने होने का दिखावा कर रहे हैं। आप मुझे बताइए, दिल्ली में पहली बार आप पार्टी की जी सरकार बनी थी, उसको पूर्ण बहुमत नहीं था। उसको पूर्ण बहुमत नहीं था। किस पार्टी ने उनको सरकार बनाने के समर्थन दिया था? किसके समर्थन से दिल्ली में वो पहली बार मुख्यमंत्री बने थे? तो एक ही चट्टे बट्टे के लोग हैं कि नहीं है? ये जेरोक्स कॉपी है कांग्रेस की। चाल चलन सब वही है। भाइयों बहनों, सच्चाई ये है, अगर कांग्रेस ओरिजिनल है तो ये दूसरी पार्टी उनकी फोटोकॉपी है। इन दिनों आपने ये भी देखा होगा, कांग्रेस के नेता प्रचार करने जाते हैं तो किसके विरुद्ध में बोलते हैं भाइयों? ये कांग्रेस के जितने नेता आए हैं, इनका भाषण किसके खिलाफ होता है? सिर्फ और सिर्फ मोदी के खिलाफ बोलते हैं, सिर्फ और सिर्फ भाजपा के खिलाफ बोलते हैं, क्योंकि उनको मालूम है आएगी तो भाजपा ही। ये हमला इसलिए मुझ पे कर रहे हैं। अगर हम जीतने वाले न होते तो इतने बड़े बड़े नेता आकर के घंटों घंटों तक हमें ही गालियां क्यों देते भाई? भाजपा को गालियां क्यों देते? जब ये जितनी गालियां देते हैं, इसका मतलब आप ज्यादा ताकतवर हो गए हो, आप ज्यादा ताकत से भाजपा के साथ खड़े हो। उन्हें बराबर पता है, इस बार पंजाब के लोगों ने पक्का मन बना लिया है।
Good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock. You continue to be with CNN News 18. I'm Ridhima Bhatnagar. Let's begin with our top focus. Punjab elections are on the head and all parties have intensified their campaigns. While on one hand, the Congress has got into offensive mode after realizing that Aam Aadmi Party can be a bigger threat in the state, Congress has also roped in youth leaders like Srinivas, Sandeep Dixit and Alka Lamba to counter the narrative by the Aam Aadmi Party. On the other hand, Charanjit Singh Channi, the Chief Minister, has stirred a controversy by saying that Congress won't allow bhaiyas from UP, Bihar and Delhi to rule Punjab. Priyanka Gandhi also targeted Kejriwal and Modi and said that they've come to Punjab and wear fake turbans.
This is the true face of the Congress party, divide and rule. They divided us on caste lines, they divided us on regional lines, they divided us on communal lines. Today, in front of Priyanka Vadra, who's ironically the in charge of Uttar Pradesh, who says my family is from Uttar Pradesh, CM Channi of Punjab used the pejorative term, a term to insult people of UP Bihar, calling them bhaiya, and Priyanka Vadra was cheering on. This is the way they divide the people of India to get a few votes. They pit state against state, language against language, region against region, caste against caste, community against community. But the question is that why time and again the Gandhi Vadra family insults the people of Uttar Pradesh.
ये बहुत शर्म की बात है कि किसी भी ये हमारा पूरा देश एक है। किसी भी व्यक्ति को, मेरे को भी वो काला 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 कहते रहते हैं। किसी भी व्यक्ति के बारे में, किसी भी वर्ग विशेष के बारे में गलत टिप्पणी करना, हम इसकी कड़ी निंदा करते हैं।
प्रियंका गांधी भी तो यूपी को बिलोंग करती है, तो
वो भी तो भैया हो गई।
So the massive controversy has now erupted after those comments that came in from Charanjit Singh Channi, and what has made it even worse is the presence of Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, who seemed to be clapping and laughing after those comments were made. So the BJP is saying that this is a divide and rule party and this is exactly what they do. Is this the narrative they're setting for people, for votes? Remember, this comes very close to the poll date as far as Punjab is concerned. The Aam Aadmi Party, also on expected lines, has now jumped in, with Arvind Kejriwal also hitting out at the Chief Minister and saying this is not anything new. They've taken barbs at me also. First, let's understand, has there been a reaction by the Congress so far defending these comments that have come in from Charanjit Singh Channi? My colleague and our senior editor, Pallavi Ghosh, is now joining us. Pallavi, this has now snowballed into a bigger political controversy. But firstly, I want to understand, has there been a reaction from anyone from the Congress so far defending these comments?
Well, not really. Officially, the Congress party hasn't yet, but there's going to be a slew of press conferences later today, so I'm sure there will be a reaction coming in from there. But that apart, Punjab has now become the battleground also for Uttar Pradesh. Those comments which came in from Charanjit Singh Channi is bad enough, but what the opposition is pointing out and the opponents of the Congress party is that Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, who comes from UP, who's also in charge of UP, she's actually laughing and, kind of condoning the comments which has come in from Channi. And this is something which could have a spiraling effect not just in UP but as well as in Bihar. That it's a derogatory comment. It insults the people from UP and Bihar. And large number of them are actually outside laborers who come in and work in many of the establishments as far as Punjab is concerned.
And Pallavi, that's exactly the point that I was getting to, that many of these laborers and a bulk of them come from Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, and we've seen how economies of states actually tumbled during the COVID-19 pandemic when these laborers went back to their respective states. But I want to understand the timing of this comment which has been made at a time when Congress is already feeling on the back foot because the Aam Aadmi Party is becoming a real threat.
Well, yes, timing is timing. Bang in the midst of elections, it's something which does not help any political party. And political opponents cannot be blamed if they're going to pounce on this comment coming in from Charanjit Singh Channi, because the point that they're going to be making is that look at the Congress party, it just talks of mere talk. And UP and Bihar is very important. These are the two states in which the Congress party is extremely weak. It's trying to build up an organization over there. It's also a part of the Hindi heartland. And the Hindi heartland states matter if you really want to come into power at the center. Bihar and UP, they say if you capture, it helps the Congress party. So these kind of comments is understandable if the BJP wants to latch on to it. And why does the BJP? In Punjab itself, we saw Arvind Kejriwal at a press conference condemning these comments coming in from Priyanka Gandhi Vadra and Channi.
Pallavi, I'll request you to stay on with us. Let me also bring in Dr. Sarwan Singh, who is a spokesperson of the BJP. Sir, your first reaction to these comments that have come in from Charanjit Singh Channi?
It's, I think, the most unfortunate comment from the sitting Chief Minister, Mr. Channi, and this is in a very, very poor taste, because we are one nation and we are a federal structure, and anybody can go to any place and contest elections and can be the Chief Minister or maybe the Prime Minister. And the way he has spoken is totally untenable, and I think he has no justification. And I am rather surprised. Whatever he said in the presence of Priyanka ji, and she is again from UP, and UP Biharis, we just can't live without them, and they are very much part of the economy of the state. But I must ask Mr. Channi that he has gone to Varanasi today, and Guru Ravidass, where from he comes, and Baba Namdev and Sheikh Free, all these gurus, saints, Bani is there in the holy book of the Sikhs, and this kind of respect he has for the people who have their origin in the UP or in Bihar or other places. This is highly, highly condemnable, and I think we just can't pardon him, number one. Number two, the way the present setup of the Indian National Congress, they have gone ways ahead. They have tried to polarize, the state of Punjab and the Punjabiyat, which is known for brotherhood. That, I can remind you that Sunil Jakhar, who got 42 votes out of 79, he can't be made the chief minister because he doesn't wear a turban or he is a Hindu. And again, yesterday only, Mr. Navjot Singh Sidhu was telling that he has already got 2-3 chief ministers dismissed, and if Mr. Channi doesn't perform as per his wishes, he is going to remove him as well. So there is a total chaos. You may talk about the group 23 and Delhi, what is happening, and to Mr. Ashwini Kumar.
So the BJP is continuing with its defensive, saying this is extremely derogatory, unfortunate, and the narrative that the Congress is setting here as per the BJP is of divide and rule. Senior journalist Hemant Attri also now joining us on the broadcast. Hemant, good afternoon. Good to have you on the broadcast with us. My concern is, why do you have to get into these slurs? Everybody knows the reference that is being made to a bhaiya, and what makes it worse is you have the presence of Priyanka Gandhi, who is the state's in charge as far as Uttar Pradesh is concerned. Your majority of the labor comes from Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. What is the narrative that you're sending out, and a messaging, more importantly, to the people of Punjab and other states as well?
Ridhima, whatever Mr. Charanjit Singh Channi has said, it is just out of Josh. And he must not forget that there should be Hosh in Josh. Priyanka Gandhi could not understand, since he was speaking in Punjabi, as to what he was saying. But whatever he was saying, of course, it is not an abusive language or something objectionable, since in this part of the country, Punjab, Haryana and all this part, northern part, whosoever is a migrant worker who comes from outside and works somewhere, we all call them bhaiyas. But in such a charged atmosphere, at the fag end of a political campaign, while being on the post of a responsible post of a chief minister, Charanjit Singh Channi should have behaved in a more, sophisticated manner, and he should have used certain other words more respectable in this regard. For the very simple reason, he is trying to make this election Punjabi, Punjabiyat and everything. For the very simple reason that Congress is facing a direct contest from none other than the Aam Aadmi Party. But he could have picked up certain good words for that. Bhaiya is not a derogatory word in this part of the country. But while such a charged atmosphere is there, he should have made his words. And Priyanka Gandhi could not understand
But
it.
Hemant, taking barbs at political parties, at political opponents, that's fine. That's how our democracy really works. And it is a charged up atmosphere when you're so close to polls. But you also need to have a certain sense of responsibility when you're an elected leader, especially when you represent the state and you're chief minister. I'll request my guests to stay on with us. We'll come back to this conversation. Just want to play out some political reactions first.
हमारे जो नेता हैं वो आतंकवादी के घर में आपको कभी नहीं मिलेंगे, हो ही नहीं सकता। झाड़ू के नेता जरूर आपको आतंकवादी के घर में मिल सकते हैं, मगर कांग्रेस का नेता आपको कभी नहीं मिल सकता। और याद रखिए कि ये चेहरे नहीं हैं, चेहरे के पीछे शक्तियां होती हैं, शक्तियां छुपी रहती हैं, अपना असली रूप नहीं दिखाती हैं। अगर आप शक्ति को पहचानना चाहते हो तो नेता के कर्मों को देखो, शब्दों को नहीं देखो, कर्मों को देखो।
जहां जहां मैं जा रही हूं तो जनता में बहुत उत्साह दिख रहा है। मैं तो कॉन्फिडेंट हूं कि कांग्रेस ही आएगी और कांग्रेस की सरकार बनेगी। प्रधानमंत्री जी और केजरीवाल जी पंजाब आकर मंच पर एक बनावटी पगड़ी पहनते हैं, उससे सरदार नहीं बनते। मैंने ये कहा, मैंने कहा कि दोनों एक ही बिसात पे खेलने वाले हैं। दोनों का जन्म आरएसएस से हुआ है, तो एक ही हैं दोनों में कोई फर्क नहीं है। और दोनों किसान विरोधी हैं, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं होनी चाहिए। दोनों गरीब विरोधी हैं। सब जानते हैं अकालियों का परफॉर्मेंस क्या है, सब जानते हैं भाजपा का परफॉर्मेंस क्या है, सब देख रहे हैं कि आम आदमी का परफॉर्मेंस क्या है। ये देखिए ना।
मोहसिन साहब, आपने बयान तो सुना ही है। जो बयान दिया पंजाब के मुख्यमंत्री ने, प्रियंका जी उस वक्त वहां पर मौजूद थी, क्या पहली प्रतिक्रिया है आपकी? किस तरह से देखते हैं इस बयान को? क्या इसको एक अपमान के तौर पर देखते हैं उत्तर प्रदेश के लोगों का?
देखिए, जिसने देश का अपमान करने का प्रयास किया हो लगातार, कांग्रेस के जो पहले राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष थे राहुल गांधी जी, वो विदेशों में जाकर देश का अपमान करने लगते थे, भारत का अपमान करते थे, मोदी जी के बारे में खिलाफ बोलना, भारत के खिलाफ बोलना। और आज चन्नी जो वहां के मुख्यमंत्री हैं, वो जिस तरह से मंच पर अपने उत्तर प्रदेश और बिहार के लोगों को अपमानित करने का काम कर रहे थे, वहीं उत्तर प्रदेश की बेटी कहने वाली प्रियंका वाड्रा तालियां बजाकर उसको खुशी का इजहार कर रही थी कि हाँ, कांग्रेस बिल्कुल सही अपमानित कर रही है। तो ये बांटों की राजनीति करने वाले लोग हैं, क्षेत्रवाद और संप्रदायवाद में डुबोने वाले लोग हैं और भारत को विभाजन करने वाले लोग हैं। तो भारत का विभाजन इन्होंने किया तो इनके तो डीएनए में है कि ये इस विचारधारा से ही जिएंगे, क्योंकि निजी स्वार्थों के लिए काम करने वाले लोग हैं, जो इन्होंने कभी जनहित और देशहित में काम नहीं किया। और मैं बात कहना चाहता हूं कि चन्नी जी जो हैं, उन्होंने तो देश के यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री आदरणीय मोदी जी की ही जान जोखिम में डाल दी थी। उनकी सुरक्षा से इतनी बड़ी खिलवाड़ कांग्रेस ने किया था और यह भी कहा गया था कि मैंने प्रियंका वाड्रा जी से बात कर ली है। तो मतलब प्रधानमंत्री की सुरक्षा को लेकर इतना बड़ा घटना होने से बच गई। सब करोड़ों करोड़ लोगों की दुआएं थी प्रधानमंत्री जी के साथ में और हैं और रहेंगी। और आपने ये कह दिया कि हम प्रियंका वाड्रा जी को अवगत करा दिया है, तो उनके लिए प्रियंका वाड्रा जी ही सब कुछ है और प्रियंका वाड्रा जी वहां खड़ी होकर मंच पर अपमानित करा रही हैं।
So reactions continue to come in. That was UP Minister Mohsin Raza also hitting out of those comments that have come in from Charanjit Singh Channi. And as we pointed out earlier, what seems to have made it was the presence of Priyanka Gandhi right there, who actually did not condemn these comments as well. Dr. Singh, I want to come to you now. These were not the only comments that have been made by Priyanka Gandhi. The narrative that the Congress is going with is that they represent the people of Punjab. Everybody else is an outsider. The recent comment that came in from Priyanka Gandhi, where she said, and she hit out both at the Aam Aadmi Party and BJP, saying just by wearing a turban, you don't become a Sardar. We all know who the real Sardar is. Hitting out that Charanjit Singh Channi is the only real representative of the people. How does the BJP respond to those comments?
हमारे गुरु साहब ने कहा था कि रहत प्यारी मुझको सिख प्यारा नहीं. It means that he says that I am not concerned with the outer appearance of a person. I am concerned with the conduct of a person. So in that kind of reference, you can't be a true Sikh just by wearing a turban. And if your heart is somewhere else and you do something totally different, undesirable, then you are not a Sikh. Sikh means a pure person. Khalsa jo hota hai, it's a the purity and the one who loves the God. But I must remind who said this Udta Punjab and 75% of the youth of Punjab is addict, and are they now still endorsing the same thing? And the way they couldn't handle and all kind of scams, maybe liquor, maybe sand, maybe chitta and whatnot has been going on.
That's exactly what I want to get to, Hemant.
Years.
Hemant, what do you make of the kind of messaging or the strategy that the Congress is working with? In Punjab, they themselves are now realizing that the Aam Aadmi Party is a real threat. A change of strategy is happening there to get younger forces in as well, new faces also. For Uttar Pradesh, they've been declared as a no contest because the contest real is, in terms of numbers, BJP and the Samajwadi Party. Then when you're so close to polls, shouldn't the real talking points be the mudda or the real issues in terms of what will change the lives of the voters rather than these barbs?
See, Ridhima, whatever has happened today, what Mr. Channi has said and how Priyanka has, reacted. What he was saying, we have to go frame by frame. What he initially said, Priyanka Gandhi, bahu hai Punjab ki. He was trying to relate.
यूपी चाहते हैं तो बोलते हैं बेटी उत्तर प्रदेश की.
बेटी उत्तर प्रदेश की है. और वहां पर he was trying to make it a point. He was trying to make her an instant connect with the masses who were present there. Priyanka was relishing that, and in a spurt of moment, what the gentleman said, UP or Bihar ke bhaiye. See, basically he was trying to connect with Punjabiyat, our own man, Sikhiyat and everything. But while saying so, जोश में होश रखना बहुत जरूरी होता है.
That's what I was saying. You also have a responsibility. As an elected leader, on unexpected lines, the opposition has latched on to it and saying, is this the narrative you want to send out to the people? I'm afraid I'm completely out of time. I'd like to thank my guests. We'll keep tracking all these political developments. We're now shifting our focus to some other stories that we're tracking at this hour. A legacy war is erupting amid the 645th birth anniversary of the poet Saint Guru Sant Ravidass. With Punjab elections right around the corner, top brass of all parties, the BJP, Aam Aadmi Party and Congress have made a beeline to pay their tributes to the Dalit icon. Punjab accounts for about 32% Dalit population, and the Ravidassiya community is concentrated in Doaba, which sends 23 MLAs to the 117-member house. The Prime Minister paid homage at the Guru Ravidass Dham today, amid his promise to revamp the temple in Varanasi.
ये मेरा सौभाग्य है कि काशी में संत रविदास मंदिर परिसर में हमने बहुत बड़ा भव्य लंगर हॉल श्रद्धालुओं को अर्पित किया। मैं आप सभी को और बनारस गए श्रद्धालुओं को भी संत रविदास जयंती की अनेक अनेक शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। साथियों, संत रविदास जी का एक दोहा है और ध्यान से सुनिए, और जब ध्यान से सुनोगे तो आपका भी पक्का विश्वास हो जाएगा कि मोदी की सरकार वही कर रही है जो संत रविदास जी कह के गए हैं।
सदगुरु संत शिरोमणि रविदास जी महाराज का पावन जन्मदिन भी है और आज यहाँ पर लाखों की संख्या में श्रद्धालुजन उपस्थित होकर के सदगुरु के प्रति अपनी विनम्र श्रद्धा को व्यक्त कर रहा है। और इस महान संत ने उस कालखंड में काशी की धरती से भक्ति का जो संदेश दिया, वह आज भी हमें एक नई प्रेरणा और नया प्रकाश प्रदान करता है।
Sir ji, PM Modi has just visited the place. Can you explain the scenario, how it was?
गुरु साहब के जहां उन्होंने आके दर्शन किए, अपनी भावना अर्पित की फूलों से सिर झुकाकर, उसके बाद उन्होंने कीर्तन मंडली के साथ बैठकर गुरु रविदास जी की उपमा की, उनकी आराधना की। ये भावना देश के सम्राट के अपने गुरु के प्रति ये बिल्कुल स्पष्ट दर्शाते हैं कि सम्राट कितना भी बड़ा क्यों ना हो, देश के प्रधानमंत्री कितना भी बड़ा क्यों ना हो, लेकिन जब गुरु चरणों की बात आती है तो उसकी मिट्टी मस्तक पे जब लगती है तो उसके भाग बदल जाते हैं। ये भावना लेकर वो यहाँ पर आए हैं। आज लोग इस पर राजनीति भी कर रहे हैं। कुछ लोग, आज गांधी परिवार वहाँ पहुंचा हुआ है बनारस में, वो लोग किस मुंह से वहाँ पे जा रहे हैं? जिन लोगों ने इतनी गुरु साहिबानों की बेअदबी की हो, वो किस मुंह से जा रहे हैं?
संत रविदास जयंती है, कितना महत्वपूर्ण ये दिन है, साथ ही क्या कुछ बताना चाहेंगे इस विजिट के बारे में?
देखिए, आज देश के लिए बहुत ही ऐतिहासिक पल है, गर्व का पल है कि 645वीं जयंती हम गुरु रविदास जी की मना रहे हैं, संत रविदास जी की। प्रधानमंत्री जी ने उनकी जयंती के अवसर पर आकर यहाँ पूजा अर्चना की और कीर्तन मंडली के साथ झाल मंजीरा बजाकर उसमें मग्न हो गए। प्रधानमंत्री जी जब से प्रधानमंत्री बने हैं 7 वर्षों में, उन्होंने देश की धर्म और संस्कृति और गुरु और संत परंपरा का सम्मान के लिए हर वो कदम उठाए। मुझे लगता है कि दूसरे लोग जो राजनीतिक दल हैं, उनके चश्मे में सिर्फ राजनीति है, और जबकि हमारे देश के प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी हमेशा हर बात को भारत के गौरव और संस्कृति को बढ़ाने से उसको देखते हैं।
Well, we'll keep tracking all these developments and much more, but for now, we're slipping into a very short break.
Wearing a hijab since the beginning of the session. From there, we have reached a stage where it's become a national issue of discussion. It could have been handled very well there. For example, even when the uniform part of it, when we look at it, the uniform, whether it was prescribed or not prescribed, what happened on 4th of February, that an order had to be passed on 5th of February to ban hijabs altogether.
Anila Singh, the focus will also be on the government. You know, so far, the feeling also has been that the government hasn't handled this very well. You allowed the law and order situation to go out of hand, which you should have never allowed. And you have dilly-dallied on opening the schools. Now that the schools and PU colleges especially are finally opening, the law and order onus is purely on the state.
My ram to everyone, and of course not. Of course not. No. You cannot corner government by saying that government was not able to handle law and order situation. That is why it whole thing blew up.
Well, it did. No, I'm speaking on facts, ma'am. There was stone pelting.
Allow me. I mean,
I'll allow you. I'll allow you. Don't worry. We have a lot of time. We have a lot of time. Don't worry. I'm just elaborating why I asked you this question. In the case of a protest being mounted by 6 school students, look at what the situation eventually became.
All right. Can I now?
Yeah.
All right. You asked me one thing that, rather I'll say you accuse the government and I was answering it. You simply interjected. So allow me. This is what I am saying. It is not the matter of the government. Government tried to control it. Government simply said that whatever the rules and norms are of the school or the educational institute, whether it is a college or a school or any other technical institute or medical institute, the students have to follow that. Simple thing. But we know it very well that where the whole matter goes, where the roots are, everybody knows in today's date. So this is not a political centric matter now. It is a legitimate issue which should be discussed. What is happening in this country?
When you say that we all know where...
Allow me, please, allow me. I'm saying, look, we saw love jihad starting from south of India. And believe me, very soon, this will be hijab jihad. Hindu girls will be asked that you should also wear hijab. And this is what I am saying.
I'll come to that later, ma'am. I'll come to that later.
Told, you cannot put bindi. You cannot wear Mangalsutra.
Ma'am, so, the larger questions you're asking, I'll come to that. Do not worry. We will talk about those things, where this protest or this insistence on wearing the hijab is taking us. We are not shy of that. But I want to first ask you as the BJP representative, have you all handled this well enough to the extent that Section 144 has to be imposed in various districts? That doesn't say that the law and order situation is fine.
This is what I am saying. It is a conspiracy. And these people, they were ready with the toolkit. And we saw that how the things emerged. It started from what would be a small place in Karnataka. Then, just like a wildfire, it went to whole of the country, then internationally. So now this issue has become... constitution of our country.
Well, that matter is in court and of course the court will decide. But Swati, Anilaji does make a very important point, which is about the hardening of positions, and that is not one-sided. The girls till now, the schools that had started were refusing, several parents are refusing to send their girls to schools now. Even as the court is hearing the matter, they're insisting that without hijab we will not do it. Will classes trump over hijab or not?
Shivani, I absolutely agree with your concern and your questions, okay? Like, for example, the way the way the BJP spokesperson right now said, this is completely unacceptable. The way to say that whether wear a hijab or not wear a hijab, etc., this is not how a country is going to be run. Who's asking? How did we reach this stage, Shivani? That's what we have to look into. How did we reach this stage where 4 girls wearing a hijab since the beginning of the session? From there, we have reached a stage where it's become a national issue of discussion. It could have been handled very well there. For example, even when the uniform part of it, when we look at it, the uniform, whether it was prescribed or not prescribed, what happened on 4th of February, that an order had to be passed on 5th of February to ban hijabs altogether.
Anila Singh, the focus will also be on the government. So far, the feeling also has been that the government hasn't handled this very well. You allowed the law and order situation to go out of hand, which you should have never allowed. And you have dilly-dallied on opening the schools. Now that the schools and PU colleges especially are finally opening, the law and order onus is purely on the state.
My ram to everyone, and of course not. Of course not. No. You cannot corner government by saying that government was not able to handle law and order situation. That is why it whole thing blew up.
Well, it
out
did.
Of proportion.
No, I'm speaking on facts, ma'am. There was stone pelting.
Allow me. I mean,
I'll allow you. I'll allow you. Don't worry. We have a lot of time. We have a lot of time. Don't worry. I'm just elaborating why I asked you this question. In the case of a protest being mounted by 6 school students, look at what the situation eventually became.
All right. Can I now?
Yeah.
All right. You asked me one thing that, rather I'll say you accuse the government and I was answering it. You simply interjected. So allow me. This is what I am saying. It is not the matter of the government. Government tried to control it. Government simply said that whatever the rules and norms are of the school or the educational institute, whether it is a college or a school or any other technical institute or medical institute, the students have to follow that. Simple thing. But we know it very well that where the whole matter goes, where the roots are, everybody knows in today's date. So this is not a political centric matter now. It is a legitimate issue which should be discussed. What is happening in this country?
When you say that we all know where...
Allow me, please. Allow me. I'm saying, look, we saw love jihad starting from south of India. And believe me, very soon, this will be Hijab jihad. Hindu girls will be asked,
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. The hijab showdown continues in Karnataka. You had the PU and the degree colleges reopening amid heightened security as had been directed by the state government. Section 144 still persists in 10 districts to ensure peace. A few PU students have chosen to defy the High Court's interim order, saying they will not enter classrooms without a hijab. Meanwhile, the Karnataka High Court hearing into the permissibility of hijabs in educational institutions is slated to resume at 2:30.
What exactly happened? Where are you studying at?
Second BBA at Jharkhand College. Actually, they told us remove hijab because this is a government order, then you can enter the class. That's it. More than 20 students were there. They were said to remove the scarf. But we won't remove. They are telling that final year girls have removed. Why can't you remove? That's not a thing. Those who want to remove, they will remove. Those who want to follow their faith, they'll follow. All of a sudden, they restricted us from wearing hijab. Is this the right thing to do? All of a sudden, they restricted us from entering the class. Remove hijab. The government has given order for the PU students, not for the degree students. Why they have to tell us? I won't remove my hijab. Why they are forcing students to remove hijab? I'll see what the court says, then we'll enter the college.
The student here says that they have been wearing hijab right from the beginning. What they're questioning is the sudden U-turn by the college authorities. They are saying that the Karnataka High Court interim order does not specify that educational institutions that did not have a specified dress code mandate hijab. These girls say that they were not allowed to enter. They were asked to remove their hijab. There were no orders earlier. This college allegedly allowed hijab earlier, but overnight there has been a sudden change in the decision because of the Karnataka High Court interim order, and the girls say that they are now forced to open and not wear hijab. There is an action happening and these girls are staging a protest. They are saying they will not go back to their college campus unless they are allowed to wear hijab. What they're questioning right now is why suddenly did this college do a U-turn? There were no prior information. Parents of the students were also not informed that the college authorities are changing their rules and are not going to allow any student to wear hijab. And that is exactly why these students right now, a group of 20, actually more than 20 students who have walked out of their classrooms.
Let me bring in my colleagues. Harish is joining us on the broadcast from Bengaluru and Swastika is joining us from Udupi. So from Vijaypura to Udupi, we're seeing students still being defiant and they want to wear a hijab while attending their classes. Harish, let me come to you first and I want to understand what happened in Vijaypura. We're understanding certain students, as these pre-university colleges reopened, they came to the campuses and they were defiant on attending classes with the hijab on. What is the version that's coming in as far as the authorities are concerned?
Well, the authorities are very clear that they are trying to implement the interim order of the Karnataka High Court, and this is not just from Vijaypura. There are reports coming in from various districts. Similar to the Vijaypura incident, we are seeing incidents where students have refused to go ahead and attend classes without the hijab. In case of Tumukuru, they have taken a small procession outside the college. Similar reports from Mandya, Yadgir and other districts as well. In several cases, you have nearly a dozen students who have now stepped out of college campus to ensure that they are allowed to wear hijab. And we are looking at anywhere around more than 200 students missing classes across the state for not being allowed to wear hijab. These are only from district centers. We do not know how the situation is at taluk levels or village level, how bad it is. But right now, some of the reports that have come in indicate that at several places, the students have remained defiant. At the same time, it's also important to mention here that, in fact, there are few colleges where the media has been barred from entering the college campus or shooting there.
Okay.
And it looks like some of those colleges have had an ad hoc arrangement where you have students allowed to wear hijab and sit in the classroom. Those are few reports coming in. The Home Minister making it very clear that so far they have dealt with the students in a mild manner, but if this continues, they will have to strictly implement the interim order of the Karnataka High Court.
Okay, Harish, I'll request you to stay on with us. Let me take in a word from Swastika also. Swastika, you've been reporting from Udupi. You spoke to certain students also. We saw them come to the campuses but refuse to attend classes. What's the word coming in from the students? Will they not come to the campus at all?
Well, they are going to continue with online classes, and if you're talking specifically about the GS degree college here in Udupi city, where just a short while ago there was a heated argument between the students and the teachers, now tempers have calmed down and they have reached a conclusion that the students rather, they will continue with online classes and they will not arrive at the, or they will not enter the college unless there is a final order from the Karnataka High Court. But if you talk about other colleges also, other schools also, Chikmagalur, we had visuals from Shivamoga, we have visuals from Bellary. You know, the basic is that colleges which had earlier not had a specified dress code or mandated any other kind of uniform, even they are in a way backtracking and going ahead with the Karnataka High Court interim order. Now, most of these schools, in consultation with the police officials also, are holding out of classroom dialogues with the parents and convincing them to continue with online classes while there is a final order from the Karnataka High Court on whether hijab should be allowed in PU and degree colleges or not. But there is a confusion because most of these students are now raising questions on why the colleges which don't have a dress code are forcing them to stay away from classrooms.
Okay, so the students still saying and remaining defiant that they were allowed with the hijab earlier, so they will want to continue with the hijab only. As we said, the hearing in the Karnataka High Court will also resume at about 2:30. Harish continues to be with us. Harish, just about an hour to go for that hearing to resume as well. What were the arguments by the petitioners yesterday?
Well, the petitioners have made multiple arguments or prayers before the court. One, we've already seen Advocate Devdutt Kamath trying to mention that the government order itself is on a very weak ground. One, it is mentioning cases of various other high courts which do not have cases of similar nature. Those were just individual cases and can't be used here in case of Karnataka. He's also trying to say that well, the government is trying to escape its responsibility by quoting public order and trying to infringe on Article 25, the right to religion of all these students. He's also saying if it's a case of public order, why is it being left to the local college development committees? Advocate Ravi Verma Kumar yesterday at the fag end of that hearing started his arguments. He is questioning if these CDCs, the college development committees, in the first place, do they have any legal sanctity at all? He's saying the Education Act, or Karnataka Education Act, doesn't really give them that kind of authority, the one currently being bestowed upon them by the Karnataka High Court through a government order in the first week of February. The other argument that they are trying to make is that there should be some sort of changes in the interim order given by the High Court, where these students are allowed to wear hijab till such time that this matter is heard and a full-fledged order is passed.
Okay, we'll have to see which way those arguments go in the High Court. As I said, just about an hour to go. Harish and Swastika, thanks for getting us those details. Keep tracking those developments for us. We're slipping into a very short break.
Radha, I'll say you accuse the government and I was answering it. You simply interjected. So allow me. This is what I am saying. It is not the matter of the government. Government tried to control it. Government simply said that whatever the rules and norms are of the school or the educational institute, whether it is a college or a school or any other technical institute or medical institute, the students have to follow that. Simple thing. But we know it very well that where the whole matter goes, where the roots are, everybody knows in today's date. So this is not a political centric matter now. It is a legitimate issue which should be discussed. What is happening in this country?
When you say that we all know where...
Allow me, please, allow me. I'm saying we saw love jihad starting from south of India. And believe me, very soon, this will be hijab jihad. Hindu girls will be asked that you should also wear hijab. And this is what I am saying.
I'll come to that later, ma'am. I'll come to that later.
Told, you cannot put bindi. You cannot wear Mangalsutra.
Ma'am, the larger questions you're asking, I'll come to that. Do not worry. We will talk about those things, where this protest or this insistence on wearing the hijab is taking us. We are not shy of that. But I want to first ask you as the BJP representative, have you all handled this well enough to the extent that Section 144 has to be imposed in various districts? That doesn't say that the law and order situation is fine.
This is what I am saying. It is a conspiracy. And these people, they were ready with the toolkit. And we saw that how the things emerged. It started from Udupi, a small place in Karnataka. Then, just like a wildfire, it went to whole of the country, then internationally. So now this issue has become international. International newspapers are writing on it. And international channels are talking about it.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Now, ahead of Uttar Pradesh's third phase of voting, CNN News 18 goes to Firozabad, a constituency that the BJP had won during the last elections. Known for its bangle industry, workers and locals talk about how unemployment still remains a key issue. Marish Akil with this ground report.
In Firozabad's Mamta Nagar, Mahesh Chand Yadav and his two sons are trying to keep pace with rising prices of chemicals needed to make bangles. All artisans in the bangle business have been the beneficiaries of free ration distributed during the lockdown, but Mahesh Chand says what they need is jobs, not doles.
लेकिन मैं कह रहा हूँ जब फ्री नहीं मिला था तब भी हम भूखे तो रहे नहीं थे आज फ्री मिल रहा है तो आदमी दुखी ज़्यादा है और जब फ्री नहीं मिला था तब सुखी था तो अपना हमें तो सिर्फ अपनी मजदूरी चाहिए अपना काम चाहिए लोगों को रोजगार मिलना चाहिए जिससे हम हर महीने कमा सकें
आपके बच्चे भी इसी काम में लग गए
नहीं बच्चे काम में नहीं लग गए बच्चों की मजबूरी है जब कोई काम नहीं है तो बच्चों को मैंने अपने पास बैठा लिया अगर मैं पास नहीं बैठा रहूँ ठलुआ डोलेंगे यादवों के बच्चे 1 मिनट में गुंडा कर देंगे सब लोग कोई भी गलती करे कहीं पे दंगा हो जाए लेकिन नाम यादवों को ही आना है
22-year-old Puneet is a BSc graduate. His brother, a first-year science student. Both applied for jobs but could not get any.
मैडम कोई ऑप्शन ही नहीं है हमारे पास कोई दूसरा बताइए आप कोई ऑप्शन है सरकार बता दे कोई ऑप्शन हो हमारे पास नौकरी कहाँ है जो पेपर होते हैं वो तो लीक हो जाते हैं पेपर होने के बाद लीक हो जाते हैं ये क्या है
हर जगह पैसे मांगे जाते हैं आप हमें है ना मतलब 3 लाख रुपए दे दीजिए 4 लाख रुपए दे दीजिए तो हम आपको जॉब देंगे मतलब फिर हमारी इसमें मैम एजुकेशन का क्या मतलब रहा अगर हमें पैसे दे के जॉब करनी थी.
The narrow bylanes of Firozabad are home to bangle makers who come from various castes. Bablu Kumar and his mother Sonkali Devi are Shankhwar Kori, a scheduled caste. Their vote is for the party that will speak for concerns of labourers.
इस बार चुनाव में क्या मुद्दा है?
इस बार चुनाव में क्या मुद्दा है ये तो अब पता चलेगा जब वोट पड़ेंगे जब डालेंगे मोदी जी को वोट ही डालेंगे और किसी को डालेंगे कमल को ही लाएंगे.
क्यों कमल को?
बढ़िया है.
Physical classes for engineering and medical entrance have resumed in Jha Coaching Institute after a gap of several weeks. Students here, mostly first-time voters, are vociferous about their choice. What is one thing that will decide?
I think it's my safety. So I would prefer BJP, Yogi Adityanath ji, because सेफ्टी बहुत बड़ी चीज़ है. अब मैं बहुत सेफ फील करते हैं मूवमेंट सारी पहले से काफ़ी.
मैं तो योगी जी को सपोर्ट करता हूं बिकॉज इसका रीज़न ये है कि ये मतलब दंगा फसाद जितने भी पहले होते थे 2017 से पहले बहुत ज़्यादा मतलब कहीं पर लड़ाइयाँ हो रही हैं कभी कुछ हो रहा है. इस चीज़ को मैं बहुत ज़्यादा सपोर्ट करता हूँ कि आज हम मतलब बहुत अच्छी तरह से रहते हैं एकदम आराम से कोई कहीं पर भी किसी भी टाइम पर निकल जाओ कोई दिक्कत नहीं होती. लेकिन आज 2017 से पहले ये सब बहुत ज़्यादा चलता था.
Let's play out some other ground reports also. News 18's Aman Sharma, he headed to Amethi and spoke with the BJP and SP candidates. One is the wife of convicted former SP minister. Two, a former Congress leader who's known as the King of Amethi. It's said to be an increasing contest and an interesting one between both the parties. Let's take a look.
In Amethi here, covering the campaign of Maharaji Prajapati, who is the wife of Gayatri Prajapati, campaigning on the SP ticket from here in Amethi, asking people for justice for a husband who was convicted last year in a rape case for the life imprisonment. Was it a fake case? Was it a genuine case? The court convicted him. They say they will go to the higher court and appeal. But clearly, the sympathy factor is something that the Samajwadi Party is trying to encash in Amethi. Maharaji ji, इस चुनाव में आप किस मुद्दे के साथ चुनाव लड़ रहे हैं?
हम अपने पति के न्याय के लिए जनता के बीच में जा रहे हैं. हमका जनता का पूरा भरोसा है. जनता हमारे साथ है. जनता हमारी मदद करेंगे. और अखिलेश के भैया का बहुत बहुत बधाई कि जो हमका कैंडिडेट 186 अमेठी से चुने. हमारे पति ऐसा नहीं है. बुरी नज़र किसी के नहीं देखे. जनता के बीच में जाते रहे और कुल जाते रहे. सब मीटिंग होती रही, सब कुछ होती रही. कुछ नहीं किया है हमारे पति. निर्दोष है हमारे पति. निर्दोष है हमारे पति. कुछ नहीं किए हैं. हम नहीं मान सके कि हमारे पति ऐसा है.
Where Maharaji Prajapati takes on Sanjay Sin, the former king of Amethi, who is campaigning, who's fighting here this time after 3 decades on an MLA seat and on a BJP ticket. What is different? Because you were seen as one of the closest Congress leaders, and now in Amethi, we hardly see any Congress.
You are right. The Congress itself is not ready to see their own house.
Sir, in Amethi, your main challenge, as we see, is from the Samajwadi Party. The wife of former minister in the government, Gayatri Prajapati ji, is fighting from here.
Our society is always sympathetic for this kind of situation. But at the same time, whole Amethi people know that what justice has come from the courts. And this sympathy is actually for that girl who was raped.
भारत माता की। हम सब अपने बूथ से जिताएंगे ना डॉक्टर साहब को भारी मतों से।
What happens in Amethi, Sanjay Sin versus Maharaji Prajapati, remains to be seen. And on 27th February, when the assembly polls, this is going to be a fascinating contest, one to watch out for. This is Aman Sharma reporting with Umesh Sharma from Amethi for CNN News 18.
The situation to go out of hand, which you should have never allowed, and you have dilly-dallied on opening the schools. Now that the schools and PU colleges especially are finally opening, the law and order onus is purely on the state.
My ram to everyone, and of course not. Of course not. No. You cannot corner government by saying that government was not able to handle law and order situation. That is why it whole thing blew up.
Well, it did.
Proportion.
No, I'm speaking on facts, ma'am. There was stone pelting.
Allow me.
I'll allow you. I'll allow you. Don't worry. See, we have a lot of time. We have a lot of time. Don't worry. I'm just elaborating why I asked you this question. In the case of a protest being mounted by 6 school students, look at what the situation eventually became.
All right. Can I now?
Yeah.
All right. You asked me one thing that, Radha, I'll say you accuse the government, and I was answering it. You simply interjected. So allow me. This is what I am saying. It is not the matter of the government. Government tried to control it. Government simply said that whatever the rules and norms are of the school or the educational institute, whether it is a college or a school or any other technical institute or medical institute, the students have to follow that. Simple thing. But we know it very well that where the whole matter goes, where the roots are, everybody knows in today's date. So this is not a political centric matter now. It is a legislative issue which should be discussed. What is happening in this country?
When you say that we all know where...
Allow me, please, allow me. I'm saying, look, we saw love jihad starting from south of India. And believe me, very soon, this will be hijab jihad. Hindu girls will be asked that you should also wear hijab. And this is what I am saying.
I'll come to that later, ma'am. I'll come to that later.
Told, you cannot put bindi. You cannot wear Mangalsutra.
Ma'am, the larger questions you're asking, I'll come to that. Do not worry. We will talk about those things, where this protest or this insistence on wearing the hijab is taking us. We are not shy of that. But I want to first ask you, as the BJP representative, have you all handled this well enough to the extent that Section 144 has to be imposed in various districts? That doesn't say that the law and order situation is fine.
This is what I am saying. It is a conspiracy. And these people, they were ready with the toolkit. And we saw that how the things emerged. It started from what would be a small place in Karnataka. Then, just like a wildfire, it went to whole of the country, then internationally. So now this issue has become international. International newspapers are writing on it. And international channels.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Some breaking developments coming in now. The latest as far as tensions between Russia and Ukraine. News agency AFP is now saying that Russian military drills in Moscow annexed Crimea have ended and soldiers are returning a day after it announced a first troop pullback from Ukraine's borders. That's the update that AFP is now putting out. Our foreign affairs editor Maha Siddiqui is now joining us. Maha, what does this mean? Does it mean that there are indications of the war clouds moving away, or too soon to say that?
So, Ridhima, since yesterday, there has been some amount of what is being looked at as the first sign of de-escalation by Russia, because yesterday as well, there were reports that some troops were returning to their bases. And today, we are getting to know, as per AFP, that troops from Crimea are also moving back to their base. Now, this will give us an indication that there is some sense of de-escalation. However, many analysts believe that it is too early to say whether the threat to Ukraine is completely over, because the number of troops that were stationed at the eastern border of Ukraine, which is at Donbass, was very high, over 100,000 troops. Therefore, we will have to wait to see whether the real thawing will actually happen with the return of that heavy amount of soldiers and troops as well as ammunition that is right now on the borders. That will be most critical to see. As of now, and we could see a sense of some sort of relief on part of Ukraine as well yesterday, because yesterday their sources pointed, the Ukraine embassy in India sources told us that they were not expecting any invasion in the next 24 hours. And those were assessments not done by them. They were assessments by other countries. Also, they said that they do feel that the situation is difficult but not critical. So they were pretty much in that sense ruling out any immediate threat.
Okay, Maha, we leave the conversation there. Thanks for getting us those details. In a fresh outreach to Russia, US President Joe Biden has assured Putin that the United Nations and NATO will not pose a threat. But he warns the imminent threat of invasion still exists. Let's take a look at this report by CNN.
President Joe Biden sending a message to Russian President Vladimir Putin.
The United States and NATO are not a threat to Russia.
And a warning.
If Russia proceeds, we will rally the world to oppose its aggression. The United States and our allies and partners around the world are ready to impose powerful sanctions.
This as the Eastern European nation has amassed more than 130,000 troops near Ukraine's border in recent weeks, according to U.S. estimates.
This is about more than just Russia and Ukraine. It's about standing for what we believe in, for the future we want for our world.
Signs of a potential start to de-escalation Tuesday. Russia announcing some of its troops will return to base after completing recent drills. The U.S. and its allies are working to confirm those claims.
Our analysts indicate that they remain very much in a threatening position.
President Biden pressing for a diplomatic solution.
We're willing to make practical, result-oriented steps that can advance our common security. We will not sacrifice basic principles, though.
Now, the Indian diaspora in Ukraine, they still remain on the edge amid an imminent threat of a Russian invasion. What are they asking for? Let's listen in to some voices.
Myself Urusha Lalwani. I'm from Ahmedabad, Gujarat, and I am in Zaporizhia city, Ukraine, and studying in Zaporizhia State Medical University. As you can see and you have heard also, situations of wars on the borders of Ukraine and Russia, but over here the people are living their life very peacefully and normally. There is a lot of panic and chaos in between the students and their parents, for they have to come to India. Right now everything is normal, but I would urge and request on the behalf of all the Indian students in Ukraine to the Gujarat government and government of India that if there is any state of emergency, please evacuate us and airlift us from Ukraine to our motherland India. Thank you.
Let's also now get your wrap of some other stories that we are tracking. The Sonipat police has registered an FIR on Deep Sidhu's death after Sidhu's brother has filed a complaint. The police had filed an FIR for rash and negligent driving of the truck. One person had tried to barge into NSA Ajit Doval's residence this morning. Security deployed had stopped that person, took him into custody. According to the primary investigation, the man seems to be mentally challenged. The Enforcement Directorate has moved an application in court to take custody of Dawood Ibrahim's brother Iqbal Kasakar in money laundering case. Now we are understanding the brother is presently locked in the Thane jail. Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao and Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray will meet on the 20th of February. This will be in Mumbai. Maharashtra Chief Minister invited KCR and has also expressed full support in the fight for federal justice. The Delhi High Court has refused to suspend Ansar brothers' sentence in the Upar cinema fire tragedy case. The Patiala court had convicted the brothers for tampering with evidence in the Upar fire tragedy case. Remember, this took place in 1997, had killed 59 people. Unidentified men had pelted stones at Union Minister SP Baghel's car in Mainpur in Uttar Pradesh on Tuesday. Now, the BJP is alleging that SP workers are behind this attack. Baghel is contesting against Akhilesh Yadav in the UP polls.
अचानक खेतों से निकल करके लोगों ने हमला कर दिया और जिसमें लगभग 20-25 लोग और से भी ज़्यादा हो सकते हैं और भी छिपे हुए लोग होते हैं। एक राय होकर उन्होंने सरिया डंडा अवैध असलाह के साथ किया और तो ये मैंने FIR जो की है इसके बाद CISF के लोग जो की है उन्होंने जान बचाई। अगर इससे कम सिक्योरिटी होती तो कल पूरी हत्या ही हो जाती।
समाजवादी पार्टी के राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष ने अपने पालतू गुंडों और अपराधियों और दंगाइयों के द्वारा कि प्रोफेसर SP सिंह बघेल जी के जो भारत सरकार के मंत्री भी हैं, प्रत्याशी के साथ साथ उनके ऊपर सपा के सैकड़ों गुंडों ने हमला कर दिया, उनकी हत्या करने का प्रयास किया। मैं चुनाव आयोग से ऐसे अपराधियों के खिलाफ अविलंब सख्त से सख्त, कठोर से कठोर कार्रवाई किए जाने की मांग करता हूं।
We're now shifting our focus to some other breaking developments coming in. Former AAP leader Kumar Vishwas has now leveled some serious allegations against AAP convener Arvind Kejriwal, saying the Delhi chief minister told him he would either become chief minister of Punjab or an independent nation. Let's listen in to what Kumar Vishwas had to say.
कि वो स्टेट नहीं है, वो एक इमोशन है। मैं सदा कहता हूँ पंजाब कोई राज्य नहीं है, पंजाब एक भावना है, पंजाबियत एक भावना है पूरी दुनिया में। ऐसे में एक ऐसा आदमी जिसने एक समय में मुझे ये तक कहा था, जब मैंने उसको कहा कि ये जो फ्रिंज एलिमेंट हैं, जो अलगाववादी संगठन हैं, जो खालिस्तानी मूवमेंट से जुड़े हुए लोग हैं, इनका साथ मत ले पिछले चुनाव में, और उसने कहा था कि नहीं हो जाएगा, चिंता मत कर। और कैसे चीफ मिनिस्टर बनेगा तो उसने उसका फार्मूला भी बताया था कि ऐसे ऐसे भगवंत को और फुल्का जी को लड़वा दूंगा और मैं पहुंच जाऊंगा। और आज भी वो उसी पथ पे है, मानो मत मानो, और नहीं भी है तो वो पपेट बिठा लेगा, कोई कुछ कर लेगा वो कुछ काम। तो ऐसे में उसने मुझे इतनी भयानक बातें बोली जो कि सबको पता है, पंजाब में सबको पता है। कि एक दिन तो मुझसे कहता है कि तू चिंता मत कर, या तो मैं एक स्वतंत्र सूबे का मुख्यमंत्री बनूंगा। और मैंने कहा ये अलगाववाद 2020 का रेफरेंडम आ रहा है, पूरी दुनिया फंडिंग कर रही है ISI से लेके और बाकी अलगाववादी ग्रुप। तो कहता तो क्या हो गया, तो स्वतंत्र देश का पहला प्रधानमंत्री बनूंगा। मतलब जिस आदमी के थॉट में इतनी ज्यादा अलगाववाद को लेके वो हो कि किसी भी कीमत पे बस मुझे सरकार मिले, सत्ता मिले।
My colleague and our senior editor Pallavi now joining us. Pallavi, some serious allegations being leveled there by Kumar Vishwas against Arvind Kejriwal. Give us a better context of this conversation and implications that it could possibly see just before polls for Punjab.
Serious consequences, because this is something which even Rahul Gandhi had raised in his meeting yesterday, saying that, we are not the ones who negotiate with the Khalistanis. And remember, in 2017, this was also a point which was raised by the then Chief Minister, Captain Amritsar East, that, do you want to vote for a party which wants to negotiate with the terrorists? See, Punjab has been through its worst phase of terrorism. And this is something which is, I would say, still scars many families. And, what essentially Congress is trying to make the point, and even the captain, is that you want to return back to those dark ages. A vote for AAP means a return to those dark ages, and therefore this is not a party to be voted for. And I think in the last leg of these campaigning, this is what the Congress is doing, stepping up its campaign against the Aam Aadmi Party, seeing it as a serious contender.
Pallavi, thanks for getting us all those details. Good afternoon, it's 2 o'clock. You continue to be with CNN News 18. I'm Ridhima Bhatnagar, getting you all the top stories over the next 60 minutes. Let's begin with our top focus. Punjab elections are on the head and all election parties have intensified their campaigns. While on one hand, the Congress has got into offensive mode after realizing that the Aam Aadmi Party can be a bigger threat in the state, the Congress has roped in youth leaders like Srinivas, Sandeep Dikshit and Alka Lamba to counter the Aam Aadmi Party. On the other hand, Charanjit Singh Channi has stirred a controversy by saying that Congress won't allow bhaiyas from UP, Bihar and Delhi to rule Punjab. Priyanka Gandhi also targeted Arvind Kejriwal and Modi and said that they have come to Punjab and they wear fake turbans.
ये बहुत शर्म की बात है कि किसी भी ये हमारा पूरा देश एक है, किसी भी व्यक्ति को, मेरे को भी वो काला 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 कहते रहते हैं। किसी भी व्यक्ति के बारे में, किसी भी वर्ग विशेष के बारे में गलत टिप्पणी करना, हम इसकी कड़ी निंदा करते हैं।
प्रियंका गांधी भी तो यूपी को बिलोंग करती है, तो
वो भी तो भैया हो गई।
चन्नी जी, आपने जो ये उत्तर प्रदेश, बिहार और दिल्ली के लोगों के लिए अभद्र भाषा प्रयोग किया है, मैं मनोज तिवारी उसकी निंदा करता हूं और इसकी निंदा पंजाब के लोग भी करेंगे, पूरे देश के लोग करेंगे। लेकिन आपकी इस छोटी सोच के बाद एक सवाल उठता है कि उत्तर प्रदेश में प्रियंका दीदी आपकी कैसे प्रचार करेंगी, कैसे उत्तर प्रदेश से वोट मांगेंगी। ये कांग्रेस की वही पुरानी मुगलों वाली सोच है कि फूट डालो और शासन करो। चन्नी जी, ये आपकी अभद्र भाषा ये पंजाब और पंजाबियों की नहीं हो सकती है।
My colleague Pallavi continues to be with us and she's joining us from Chandigarh. Allegations, counter allegations, continue to come in, Pallavi. But this comment that is coming from Charanjit Singh Channi, with the narrative that the BJP is now alleging, it looks like it will be more damaging in UP than in Punjab.
No, in Punjab, I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. In Punjab, he obviously knew which constituency he was catering to. But the problem is different. The problem is that who was by his side? Priyanka Gandhi Vadra by his side. She's UP in charge. And that is where the damage can be inflicted in the sense that, every time she stands up and speaks of development and a different or a new UP, this is what is going to be thrown back at her by the BJP and also at Rahul Gandhi, that these people talk about development and change in Uttar Pradesh, but, they scoff us, they make fun of us, or they are party to those who are making a fun of it. So that, I think, is where the problem area lies as far as the Congress is concerned.
Okay, Pallavi, we leave the conversation there. Let me bring in our guest joining us on the broadcast from the BJP. We have Charu Pragya, we have senior journalist Hemant Atri, and we also have Dr. Kanwalpreet Kaur, a political analyst. Good afternoon to all of you. Charu, I'll come to you first. Your first reactions. We've seen multiple reactions that have come in from the BJP as well. What do you make of these comments that have come in from a sitting chief minister, and by his side was the state in charge for Uttar Pradesh as well?
What is worse than the statement made by the sitting CM is the way Priyanka Gandhi Vadra was laughing and clapping at the statement. So this is Congress's ideology of divide and rule. I think these so-called leaders have forgotten that Guru Gobind Singh Ji was born in Bihar. They don't know that the workers tilling the soil in Punjab come from UP and Bihar. They don't understand that dividing people on the basis of being North Indian and South Indian, on the basis of being an outsider or an insider is not the way to work in a country like India. Do you remember a time in the general elections when Rahul Gandhi had made a statement similar to this, putting down the people of Uttar Pradesh and South India? I think Priyanka Gandhi is walking down the same path because she has understood their party will not even make a dent in UP elections. They don't care about alienating people. I think they are just so focused on themselves that divide and rule is the only thing that works for them right now.
Okay, let me take in a word first actually from Arshpreet, who's an advocate and Punjab Congress spokesperson. Arshpreet, how do you respond to what has happened? You have a sitting chief minister who's hitting out, saying we won't let the bhaiyas of UP and Delhi come to Punjab. You have Priyanka Gandhi right next to him, who seems to be laughing and clapping as well. She's the state in charge for Uttar Pradesh. What is the message that you're sending out to voters both in Punjab as well as Uttar Pradesh?
One, the BJP has done what it does best: blow things out of proportion and mislead people. Channi Saab hasn't said anything that is demeaning or derogatory. He simply said that the Chief Minister of Punjab is going to be a Punjabi. And second of all, you do remember the fact that Tarun Chugh, the National General Secretary of the BJP, said that the CM of Punjab is going to be a Dalit, and later they made a U-turn on that. So now they cannot digest how could the Congress, have a Dalit CM face. That's why they are targeting him and, blowing things out of proportion for no rhyme or reason. We respect the people of UP, we respect the people of Bihar, and we have been accommodating them in Punjab. We have been giving them jobs. We have been making sure that they are accommodated, that they are comfortable, that they feel safe and secure. Rather, it is the BJP that has an anti-Dalit attitude. That's why time and again they try to target Mr. Channi simply because he's Dalit and simply because they could not deliver a Dalit CM face for the BJP in Punjab. That's why they're targeting.
But Arshpreet, the criticism coming in is this, that there's no wrong, there's nothing wrong in using the narrative of a Dalit chief minister, which we've seen the Congress use. But why hit out at a certain section coming in from the Uttar Pradesh or Bihar, especially at a time when the constitution of labours, the maximum come from Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, and how much they contribute as far as the state economy is concerned?
Definitely, and that's why I'm telling you that Channi Saab has the highest, utmost respect for the people of UP, for the people of Bihar. We have made sure that they have a comfortable stay, and even when the COVID, wave was at the highest possible peak, we arranged their transport, we arranged their food, we arranged everything for them so that they could have a comfortable stay in Punjab. And it was
Harshpreet,
the
all that is
BJP
fine, but
that made
optics,
sure that the
you know,
exodus happened.
optics have a
It
big
was
role
the
to play
BJP
as
that
far as
made sure
politics
that the
are
people of
concerned. Do you
UP
think
and
this
Bihar
could have been
walk on their
handled
foot
better? I'll
and
come to
carry
you in
the
just a bit, but let me take in a word from Hemant also. Hemant, where do you stand in this? Multiple allegations and counter allegations coming in. Not just the BJP that is attacking what has happened as far as Charanjit Singh Channi. You've got the Aam Aadmi Party convener also is saying this is nothing new as far as the Congress is concerned. They've called me Kala in the past as well.
Ridhima ji, everybody is playing to his tactics. But the real thing is where Pallavi ended, I would like to start from there. See, this issue is being raked up by none other than the BJP. And as she was rightly pointing out, it's not going to hurt Congress in any way in Punjab, but it can certainly hurt Congress in the UP. But my thing is something else. There is something very interesting that I am going to tell you. Ridhima, in Punjab, BJP has not much to gain. BJP don't have much to gain. And in UP, Congress doesn't have much to lose. Congress is already at the end of where it was. There are maybe 5 to 10 seats, that's it. The real issue is what Mr. Charanjit Singh Channi was doing. He was not saying anything derogatory. It's just a routine word used. There's nothing, which is contemptuous in a way. The thing is, he was speaking in a layman's language. But yes, he, being a chief minister, being a constitutional head of a state, he could have opted for certain better words. Now the thing is, why BJP is taking it up? They want to, hit Priyanka Gandhi since she was present on the stage when Charanjit Singh Channi was saying this. And he was calling her Punjabiyan di Nuh. Punjabiyon ki putra vadu ya Punjabiyon ki bahu. That's what she was calling, and she was relishing that. And in the same breath, he said these bhaiyas. If you call me personally, if you ask me, if you are in Haryana, Punjab, Himachal, or in this northern part of the country, you can't anybody, any migratory fellow who is working here in this part, and tell him bhaiya. Nobody minds it. It's just a routine language. It's a routine dialect that we call it. But at a certain stage, at the fag end of a campaign, which is very heated one, and before 72 hours of polling,
there is also a responsibility with the choice of words that you use, especially at a time when you are so close to polls. But I want to take in a word from Dr. Kaur also. Dr. Kaur, where do you stand as far as this entire controversy is concerned when you're so close to polls, especially as far as Punjab is concerned? There is an internal assessment by the Congress themselves where they're now realizing that the Aam Aadmi Party has become a real threat. There is a revamp in terms of the faces they want to now use and push out in terms of campaigning. Do you think all these barbs are backfiring for the Congress and in the end will result in them losing the state?
Yes, I think it's this theatrics is going too far. And I differ from my fellow panelists when they say it's not going to hurt the Congress. Well, I'll just give you a small example. 4-5 years back from now, there was a song which came out with very derogatory term. I'll just quote it that "Paiya kut dena," and all the migrant laborers were on protest all over Punjab, and the singer had to take the song back. Second, if you say that this word is used very, very liberally, no. See, the Punjab in which my father grew up and I grew up are entirely different. That time you could call somebody a paiya. Even at that time, if you called a Sikh boy bhaiya or paiya, as they say in Punjabi, he would say, "Main paiya nahi hai. You can call me Bhai." We call our brothers Bhai or Veerji, right? So this word has never been taken very lightly. It's always been derogatory. And coming from the chief minister of a state which draws its, labor force from people coming from Bihar and UP, I think it is very derogatory. When I was a child, I saw that when the trains used to come from UP, Bihar during harvest time, the Jat Sikhs would be standing with their tractors
as far as from Bathinda and all these places. I saw it in Ludhiana, and these because there were not many combines and all that.
That's exactly what I was discussing with Arshpreet a short while ago, that can we completely negate their contribution, and do you think this could backfire? I'll request my guests to stay on with us. I'll come back to this conversation. I just want to play out first some political reactions.
हमारे जो नेता हैं वो आतंकवादी के घर में आपको कभी नहीं मिलेंगे, हो ही नहीं सकता। झाड़ू के नेता जरूर आपको आतंकवादी के घर में मिल सकते हैं, मगर कांग्रेस का नेता आपको कभी नहीं मिल सकता। और याद रखिए कि ये चेहरे नहीं हैं, चेहरे के पीछे शक्तियां होती हैं, शक्तियां छुपी रहती हैं, अपना असली रूप नहीं दिखाती हैं। अगर आप शक्ति को पहचानना चाहते हो तो नेता के कर्मों को देखो, शब्दों को नहीं देखो, कर्मों को देखो।
जहां जहां मैं जा रही हूं तो जनता में बहुत उत्साह दिख रहा है। मैं तो कॉन्फिडेंट हूं कि कांग्रेस ही आएगी और कांग्रेस की सरकार बनेगी। प्रधानमंत्री जी और केजरीवाल जी पंजाब आकर मंच पर एक बनावटी पगड़ी पहनते हैं, उससे सरदार नहीं बनते। मैंने ये कहा, मैंने कहा कि दोनों एक ही बिसात पे खेलने वाले हैं। दोनों का जन्म आरएसएस से हुआ है, तो एक ही हैं दोनों में कोई फर्क नहीं है, और दोनों किसान विरोधी हैं, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं होनी चाहिए। दोनों गरीब विरोधी हैं। सब जानते हैं अकालियों का परफॉर्मेंस क्या है, सब जानते हैं भाजपा का परफॉर्मेंस क्या है, सब देख रहे हैं कि आम आदमी का परफॉर्मेंस क्या है। ये देखिए ना।
Okay, let me take in a word from Charu Pragya on what Priyanka Gandhi has said. She's drawn parallels in between the BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party with the RSS roots. Also has hit out very categorically at the Prime Minister and Arvind Kejriwal, saying you can come to Punjab, you can wear all the turbans you want, but the Janta of Punjab knows who the real Sardar is, saying the support is with Charanjit Singh Channi.
And doesn't it ring too similar to what Mamata Banerjee kept saying in elections in West Bengal? And you know what happened after those elections. You know how people were beaten up, how political murders have been disguised as something else, how not even investigations happened after that. And Punjab is a very sensitive state for our country. It's a border state. We've seen a lot of disturbances in recent times in Punjab. I think a statement like this is not just irresponsible, it is downright derogatory. You are not just disrespecting the welcoming nature of Punjabis, you are disrespecting the hardworking and honest people of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. So like I said earlier, in the British time, maybe divide and rule used to work. In modern India, there is no place for it. India is whole, India is united, and any political party which tries to drive a wedge between people is not going to get any success here.
Arshpreet, respond to what Charu Pragya is saying, that this could have worked previously, but today this divide and rule policy will not work.
See, if anyone's trying to divide, communities, it is the BJP. And we know it for a fact that when the COVID wave was at the peak, there were people from UP and Bihar leaving, in massive numbers, and they had to carry their small babies, toddlers, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, just because the BJP couldn't facilitate them. It happened in Jammu and Kashmir as well. Second of all, Channi Sahab has done a lot for the people of UP and Bihar and Punjab. And second of all, BJP knows it for a fact that their existence in Punjab is as good as zero. So that's why they're basically trying to gain some, some views, some followers by blowing things out of proportion. But
let him complete.
I just want to say
let him complete quickly.
Yeah, thank you. All I'm saying is that BJP has been calling Punjabis terrorists. They've been calling Punjabis Khalistanis. They have been labeling farmers as terrorists. And even when Mr. Modi came here back in the day, he said, thanks कहते ना अपने CM को because मैं जिंदा लौट के जा रहा हूँ. And after that, there was an uproar. The BJP started calling Punjabis killers and whatnot. So they should first introspect and then talk about our CM who has done so much for the people of Punjab and for the people of UP and Bihar as well. So they should introspect and then, calculate what they're even talking about.
Arshpreet, multiple issues have been mixed in here. What happened with the Prime Minister? Questions had to be raised because, if this most protected man of the nation can be stuck on a flyer for so long, what does it mean? Why was this miscommunication? But that's a different story. We were just talking about the prospects of the BJP, the Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party as far as Punjab is concerned. Charu, I'll come back to you in just a bit. Hemant, I want to understand from you as far as specifically Punjab is concerned. So close to polls, we're already seeing an internal assessment within the Congress now, realizing that the Aam Aadmi Party is the real threat. The Congress has been in power for this state. They had the edge, but this constant infighting with Navjot Singh Sidhu and Charanjit Singh Channi, even though, you're seeing the leaders come out and say all is well, do you really think enough has been done to still maintain on that power?
No, Riddhima, not at all. See, what Congress has been doing from day one, for last, say, about 132 days, if you are really precise, the way they removed Captain Amritsar Singh first, the utterings of Mr. Navjot Singh Sidhu, then naming of Charanjit Singh Channi as the Chief Minister, and the situation which is leading to this pass. One thing is very clear, that Congress from day one was on a suicide spree. And that's how it is culminating now. Now they are in a sort of desperation and course correction mood. For the very simple reason, in last 4 days, if you see the election campaign and its pitch going on, in Malwa, Aam Aadmi Party has substantially gained. Now the real issue will be, Malwa being the single largest region with 69 seats, the real threat with Congress Party is that their own PCC president is stuck up in Amritsar East and he has been heralded by all other important people. He is most likely stuck up in Amritsar East rather than campaigning for the whole state in the next 3 or 4 days which are remaining. Now the real issue is the Congress is trying to do a course correction. And in that desperation, these kind of words, although I still admit that this is not derogatory at all. Okay. Let me tell you this. But anyway, leaving it aside, the real thing is Congress Party should have taken each one of them on the board. What Mr. Ashwini did yesterday, or Sunil Jakhad has been doing, or many others. And the way Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, what he said yesterday, 38% Hindus are felt aside. They are feeling, insecure. So these kind of things, Congress should have been taking this in the prime concern. Okay. But the real problem is, let me complete. Congress Party is in power for last 5 years. Okay. Now, if you see last 132 days, they have disowned their own Chief Minister, Captain Amritsar Singh. And while being in power, they have to defend and attack both. 4.5 years of power, they could not defend it. And they have to contest this election on, governance of 111 days. So the real problem with Congress is how to defend and where to attack. They have their own government. Their Chief Minister was out of their, control. And the new Chief Minister came, there was 11 days only precisely. That is the real problem with Congress Party. And the party is scattered downright. Nobody is speaking in the same thing. So, see what Mr. Bajwa is saying, what Ashwini is saying yesterday.
Arshpreet, respond to this. And this is not just a Punjab-specific problem, but seems to be a national problem also. Yesterday, we saw the likes of Ashwini Kumar, after almost 4 decades in the party, saying that I now feel that I can work for the better interest of the nation, but outside the party. Many now feeling extremely sidelined. Manish Tiwari's name was not in the star campaigners list. These are veterans of the party. Wouldn't they have helped your own party on the ground as far as Punjab is concerned?
Well, let me clarify one thing once and for all, that Congress Party is winning with a thumping majority, and as far as the leaders leaving are concerned, see, when 15 to 20 leaders join a party, it is but natural that a few would also leave, 1 or 2 leaders would leave. We have 10 MLAs of the Aam Aadmi Party that have migrated into Congress. You know why? Because they do not believe in the leadership of Aam Aadmi Party. They say they're dictatorial and there's no room for dissent. There is room for dissent in the Congress Party. There is freedom of speech and expression in the Congress Party, and we do not replace 5 CMs in 7 months. And not a single CM of the BJP could say a single thing, because what would have happened to them? Just what happened to Mr. Radvani. Was removed from the party for no rhyme or reason. He cannot be seen in the Lok Sabha, in the Rajya Sabha, in the press, in any press conference, nowhere at all. And second of all, we're not even like the Aam Aadmi Party, who had to kick out their co-founders. They had 4 MPs, 3 left them. They had 3 co-founders,
you're saying
2
there's
left them.
space for dissent. Your G23 leaders don't seem to agree, because Manish Tiwari went on to say that I'm not surprised that my name is not there in the star campaigners list. I actually would have been surprised if my name was included, and the reason is known to everybody, because I've had a difference of opinion. But these conversations will continue. I would like to thank my guests. We leave the conversation there. A few days to go as far as Punjab polls are concerned. We'll have to see how these developments really pan out. Let's listen in to some other reactions as well.
साथियों, हम पंजाब को पंजाबियत की नजर से देखते हैं। हमारे लिए पंजाबियत ये सबसे प्रमुख है। ये जो हमारे विरोधी लोग हैं ना, वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ पंजाब को सियासत के चश्मे से देखते हैं। हम पंजाबियत को गहराई से देखते हैं भाइयों। और इसलिए हमें करतारपुर साहिब कॉरिडोर के विकास का सौभाग्य मिला।
Let's shift our focus to the other big story that we're tracking. A legacy war is now erupting amid the 645th birth anniversary of poet Saint Guru Sant Ravidass. With Punjab elections right around the corner, top brass of all parties, the BJP, the Aam Aadmi Party and Congress have made a beeline to pay their tributes to the Dalit icon. Punjab accounts for about 32% Dalit population, and the Ravidassiya community is concentrated in Doaba, which sends 23 MLAs to the 117-member house. The Prime Minister paid homage at the Guru Ravidass Dham today amid his promise to revamp the temple in Varanasi.
ये मेरा सौभाग्य है कि काशी में संत रविदास मंदिर परिसर में हमने बहुत बड़ा भव्य लंगर हॉल श्रद्धालुओं को अर्पित किया। मैं आप सभी को और बनारस गए श्रद्धालुओं को भी संत रविदास जयंती की अनेक अनेक शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। साथियों, संत रविदास जी का एक दोहा है और ध्यान से सुनिए, और जब ध्यान से सुनोगे तो आपका भी पक्का विश्वास हो जाएगा कि मोदी की सरकार वही कर रही है जो संत रविदास जी कह के गए हैं।
सदगुरु संत शिरोमणि रविदास जी महाराज का पावन जन्मदिन भी है और आज यहाँ पर लाखों की संख्या में श्रद्धालुजन उपस्थित होकर के सदगुरु के प्रति अपनी विनम्र श्रद्धा को व्यक्त कर रहा है। और इस महान संत ने उस कालखंड में काशी की धरती से भक्ति का जो संदेश दिया, वह आज भी हमें एक नई प्रेरणा और नया प्रकाश प्रदान करता है।
Sir ji, PM Modi has just visited the place. Can you explain the scenario, how it was?
गुरु साहब के जहां उन्होंने आके दर्शन किए, अपनी भावना अर्पित की फूलों से सिर झुकाकर, उसके बाद उन्होंने कीर्तन मंडली के साथ बैठकर गुरु रविदास जी की उपमा की, उनकी आराधना की। ये भावना देश के सम्राट के अपने गुरु के प्रति ये बिल्कुल स्पष्ट दर्शाते हैं कि सम्राट कितना भी बड़ा क्यों ना हो, देश के प्रधानमंत्री कितना भी बड़ा क्यों ना हो, लेकिन जब गुरु चरणों की बात आती है तो उसकी मिट्टी मस्तक पे जब लगती है तो उसके भाग बदल जाते हैं। ये भावना लेकर वो यहाँ पर आए हैं। आज लोग इस पर राजनीति भी कर रहे हैं। कुछ लोग, आज गांधी परिवार वहाँ पहुंचा हुआ है बनारस में, वो लोग किस मुंह से वहाँ पे जा रहे हैं? जिन लोगों ने इतनी गुरु साहिबानों की बेअदबी की हो, वो किस मुंह से जा रहे हैं?
संत रविदास जयंती है, कितना महत्वपूर्ण ये दिन है, साथ ही क्या कुछ बताना चाहेंगे इस विजिट के बारे में?
देखिए, आज देश के लिए बहुत ही ऐतिहासिक पल है, गर्व का पल है कि 645वीं जयंती हम गुरु रविदास जी की मना रहे हैं, संत रविदास जी की। प्रधानमंत्री जी ने उनकी जयंती के अवसर पर आकर यहाँ पूजा अर्चना की और कीर्तन मंडली के साथ झाल मंजीरा बजाकर उसमें मग्न हो गए। प्रधानमंत्री जी जब से प्रधानमंत्री बने हैं 7 वर्षों में, उन्होंने देश की धर्म और संस्कृति और गुरु और संत परंपरा का सम्मान के लिए हर वो कदम उठाए। मुझे लगता है कि दूसरे लोग जो राजनीतिक दल हैं, उनके चश्मे में सिर्फ राजनीति है, और जबकि हमारे देश के प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी हमेशा हर बात को भारत के गौरव और संस्कृति को बढ़ाने से उसको देखते हैं।
Let's bring our focus back to Punjab, which is going to go to polls in just a couple of days now. While Amritsar East has been Navjot Singh Sidhu's turf, this time it's a three-way fight to the finish. Rupashri with this ground report.
Navjot Singh Sidhu, the man at the centre of the Punjab political potboiler that has been unfolding for months now. He's the sitting MLA at Amritsar East, but unlike 2017, it may not be a cakewalk for him this time around. For the first time ever, Sidhu and arch-rival Bikram Singh Majithia of the Akali Dal will be squaring off. Both netas have been at loggerheads over Sidhu's allegations that Majithia has links to Punjab's drug mafia.
सारा माफिया दो बंदे चलाਉਂਦੇ ਸੀ मास्टर्स ऑफ करप्शन साला आगे जीजू पीछे उदों आगे ठेकेदारी सिस्टम.
Amritsar East has an almost equal number of Sikh and Hindu voters. Dalits from both religions make up a third of the electorate. So will Akali's alliance with the BSP benefit Majithia in this seat?
ਸੁਭਾਵਿਕ ਹੈ ਏਡੇ ਏਡੇ ਇਕੱਠ ਹੋਣ ਲੋਕ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਪੱਧਰ ਤੋਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਉੱਠ ਕੇ ਇਕੱਠ ਕਰਨ. ਗੱਲ ਹੁਣ ਕਾਂਗਰਸ ਅਕਾਲੀ ਭਾਜਪਾ ਬਸਪਾ ਕਾਮਰੇਡਾਂ ਦੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਗੱਲ ਇਸ ਹਲਕੇ ਨੂੰ ਆਜ਼ਾਦੀ ਦਿਵਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਹੈ.
And as if the Amritsar East contest wasn't interesting enough, there is a third player in the mix. This is the first election for 50-year-old social activist Jeevanjot Kaur, who is fighting on an Aam Aadmi Party ticket.
Indeed, it's a bold step, but let me also tell you that I've been very actively working, with ladies here. I've been into drug de-addiction also. So I have seen women, I have seen mothers, I have seen sisters, who have lost all their men, brothers, husbands to drugs. And there's one particular area here in East which is Makbulpura. Believe me, if you have time, let us visit that area once. And you will see there are families who have lost all their male members to drugs there. So that was one aspect where I thought that yes, if I get a chance to change their lives, I must avail that.
Jeevanjot Kaur is known as Bad Woman in Punjab. She has been at the forefront of making healthcare and education accessible to children and women for the last 25 years. She is one of just 12 women candidates fielded by AAP. Amritsar East falls under the Majha region of Punjab. Traditionally, the contest here has been between the Congress and the Akalis. But can AAP make an impact this time around? With Rupashri Nanda in Amritsar, Anasya Kumar for CNN News 18.
On that note, we are slipping into a very short break. Don't go anywhere. We're coming back with lots more.
Me one thing that Radha, I'll say you accuse the government and I was answering it. You simply interjected. So allow me. This is what I am saying. It is not the matter of the government. Government tried to control it. Government simply said that whatever the rules and norms are of the school or the educational institute, whether it is a college or a school or any other technical institute or medical institute, the students have to follow that. Simple thing. But we know it very well that where the whole matter goes, where the roots are, everybody knows in today's date. So this is not a political centric matter now. It is a legislative issue which should be discussed. What is happening in this country?
When you say that we all know where...
Allow me, please. Allow me. I'm saying, look, we saw love jihad starting from south of India. And believe me, very soon, this will be Hijab jihad. Hindu girls will be asked that you should also wear hijab. And this is what I am saying.
I'll come to that later, ma'am. I'll come to that later.
Told, you cannot put bindi. You cannot wear Mangalsutra.
Ma'am, the larger questions you're asking, I'll come to that. Do not worry. We will talk about those things, where this protest or this insistence on wearing the hijab is taking us. We are not shy of that. But I want to first ask you as the BJP representative, have you all handled this well enough to the extent that Section 144 has to be imposed in various districts? That doesn't say that the law and order situation is fine.
This is what I am saying. It is a conspiracy. And these people, they were ready with the toolkit. And we saw that how the things emerged. It started from, would it be a small place in Karnataka. Then, you know, just like a wildfire, it went to whole of the country, then internationally. So now this issue has become international. International newspapers are writing on it. And international channels are talking about it. So in today's date, Hijab has become victim and Bhagwa has become villain. वो खुश हैं, बहुत खुश हैं. उनको जो जिस चीज के लिए कहा गया है, वो चीज उन्होंने पूरी करके दिखा दी कि Hijab is a victim and Bhagwa is a villain. This is what we are observing in today's date.
Okay.
Now Hindus are being told that you are a victim. You are not allowing girls to wear hijab. Who is stopping them to wear hijab? आप हिजाब में रहिए, बुर्के में बिल्कुल बंद होकर रहिए. कोई नहीं मना कर रहा है. पर जहां आप जा रही हैं, उसके नॉर्म्स को आपको फॉलो करना पड़ेगा. This country is not going to run according to Sharia law. This country is going to run according to the constitution of our country.
Well, that matter is in court, and of course the court will decide. But Swati, Anilaji does make a very important point, which is about the hardening of positions, and that is not one-sided. You know, the girls till now, the schools that had started were refusing, several parents are refusing to send their girls to schools now. Even as the court is hearing the matter, they're insisting that without hijab we will not do it. Will classes trump over hijab or not?
Shivani, I absolutely agree with your concern and your questions, okay? Like, for example, the way you, I mean, the way the BJP spokesperson right now said, this is completely unacceptable. The way to say that whether wear a hijab or not wear a hijab, etc., this is not how a country is going to be run. Who's asking? How did we reach this stage, Shivani?
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. The hijab showdown still continues in Karnataka. PU and degree colleges have reopened amid heightened security, which had been directed by the state government. Remember, Section 144 still persists in 10 districts to ensure peace. A few PU students have chosen to defy the High Court's interim order, saying they will not enter classrooms without a hijab. Meanwhile, the Karnataka High Court hearing into the permissibility of hijabs in educational institutions is slated to now resume.
The student here says that they have been wearing hijab right from the beginning. What they're questioning is the sudden U-turn by the college authorities. They are saying that the Karnataka High Court interim order does not specify that educational institutions that did not have a specified dress code mandate hijab. These girls said that they were not allowed to enter. They were asked to remove their hijab. There were no orders earlier. This college allegedly allowed hijab earlier, but overnight there has been a sudden change in the decision because of the Karnataka High Court interim order, and the girls say that they are now forced to open and not wear hijab. There is an action happening and these girls are staging a protest. They are saying they will not go back to their college campus unless they are allowed to wear hijab. What they're questioning right now is why suddenly did this college do a U-turn? There were no prior information. Parents of the students were also not informed that the college authorities are changing their rules and are not going to allow any student to wear hijab. And that is exactly why these students right now, a group of 20, actually more than 20 students who have walked out of their classrooms. What exactly happened? Where are you studying at?
Second BBA at Jharkhand College. Actually, they told us remove hijab because this is a government order, then you can enter the class. That's it. More than 20 students were there. They were said to remove the scarf. But we won't remove. They are telling that final year girls have removed. Why can't you remove? That's not a thing. Those who want to remove, they will remove. Those who want to follow their faith, they'll follow. All of a sudden, they restricted us from wearing hijab. Is this the right thing to do? All of a sudden, they restricted us from entering the class. Remove hijab. The government has given order for the PU students, not for the degree students. Why they have to tell us? I won't remove my hijab. Why they are forcing students to remove hijab? I'll see what the court says, then we'll enter the college.
बस हम ये चाहते हैं कि इस वक्त कोर्ट में मामला चल रहा है. आप अमन व अमान के साथ कोर्ट हमारी जो अदालतें हैं इंशाअल्लाह हक का फैसला देंगे और हमारे संविधान की हिफाजत करेंगे.
तो आप भी सब्र के साथ अपनी तालीम पर फोकस करें और जितने भी लोग हैं इनके तालीम में आप मदद करें, यही हम आपसे कहना चाहते हैं।
जितनी ख़वातीन और बच्चियां जो है प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं अपने दस्तूरी हक के लिए, हम पूरी मिल्लत इस्लामिया उनके साथ खड़े हैं। वो अपने दस्तूरी हक की लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं और एहतजाज प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं, तो हम उनके साथ में हैं।
Let me bring in my colleagues, Harish Upadhyay reporting from Bengaluru, Swastika reporting from Udupi. Harish, so that's where the bone of contention still says whether it's a part of faith versus the guidelines that an educational institution makes. 2:30, the High Court is all set to resume its hearing. Any word already coming in from the High Court?
Well, in a short while from now, you will see that bench assembling and the hearing starting. Advocate Ravi Verma Kumar will resume his arguments. Yesterday, he got very little time. He's appearing for one of the petitioners, and he's making an argument on how the College Development Committee itself is not something that has legal sanctity. The Karnataka Education Act doesn't give it the kind of powers that right now the government wants to give it. It can't decide on matters of public order. So he is really questioning the whole existence of the College Development Committee. Under what framework of law is it being given so much power? That particular argument will continue today as well. At the same time, both the petitioners now seeking that the High Court here make alterations to the interim order that's been given. They are saying that at least till this issue gets solved, let's allow them to wear hijab. At the same time, let's remember yesterday, one of the advocates made it clear, or actually told the court, that somewhere this order is being misinterpreted for schools and degree colleges, because right now the High Court order clearly says that students are restrained from wearing religious attire wherever there is a dress code prescribed by the College Development Committee. So now we will have to see if the advocates once again file a proper petition before the High Court seeking clarity on that.
Okay, Harish, I'll request you to stay on with us. Let me take in a word from Swastika also. Swastika, we did see the PU colleges reopening today, but protests still continue as far as the students being defined. They do want to wear a hijab while they want to attend their classrooms. Talk to us about what's taking place in Udupi. What's the word coming in from the students?
Well, Udupi is calm. In fact, the situation is quite peaceful here in Udupi city. Yes, there were some protests that were reported from the GS college here in Udupi, but now the Muslim students there have decided that they will not attend physical classes. They'll go with online classes until there's a final order from the Karnataka High Court. But while Udupi situation is much better compared to other areas, there have been protests that have broken out across Karnataka. You look at the visuals from Chitradurga, Shivamoga. In fact, there are visuals coming in from Chikmagalur as well, where more than 200 students along with their parents are staging protests outside degree colleges. Why are they staging protests? Well, mainly what the students say is because most of these degree colleges had not specified that they would be changing the new dress code and coming up with a new dress code. Rather, they say that they were allowed to wear hijab earlier, but now there seems to have been a U-turn from the college authority sides, and that is why we are seeing protests take place in so many places right now in Karnataka.
So as Swastika was pointing out, there are protests that have broken out in various areas. Those visuals on your screens, and these are visuals coming in from Chikmagaluru, where you can see dozens of students there demanding permission to wear the hijab inside their classrooms. Harish also continues to be with us. So Harish, we're already putting out these visuals and they're coming in from Chikmagaluru. It's not just Udupi, it's not just Shivamoga, but other districts as well. What seems to be the way ahead from here on? The students seem extremely defiant with their demands.
Well, if you go by what the students and the parents are saying, that they are very clear, they do not want to remove their hijab. Many of them saying religion comes first to us and not education. These are visuals coming in from Chikmagaluru Government Girls PU College as well as the MES College, both of them in Chikmagaluru. We are seeing similar kinds of protests happening in Shivamoga, Yadgir, Kalburgi, multiple places in fact, where students have said that we will skip the classes, but we do not want want to remove hijab. Many of them not even coming to school campuses, college campuses, saying we'll wait for the High Court to give a full judgment. After that, we will come to classes. Unfortunately, not every school over there has given them this option of attending online classes. Like some of these colleges of Udupi, many of them will miss their exams because preparatory exams are on for class 10 students. At the same time, some of the colleges are having last phase of the practical exams or practical syllabus being completed. They will have to miss on that, which really can't be taught online. So all these challenges before these PU college students and also degree college students.
Harish, this is something that we've been discussing every day for the last 2 weeks, which is that at the middle of all of this is also education, which is suffering with classes, that have stopped, examination, the schedule is all gone for a toss. Have you been able to speak to some students on the ground? Is that not a concern for them that my education is getting suffered with each passing day?
Well, there are two sets of students here. One, the ones who are protesting are saying that religion comes first to us. We want to be allowed inside the classroom, but with hijab, we can't really remove the hijab and enter the classroom. Many of them saying that we don't mind sacrificing the exams or even education for religion. So that's the kind of stance that some of them have taken. The others are a worried lot that this will really throw the whole academic calendar into haywire, because they are saying that, well, if these students continue to protest, we've already missed classes, then you might see the classes being extended, which means the time gap to study after classes complete and exams take place will further shorten, and already the exam dates have been announced by Karnataka government.
Where does one draw the line? When will we actually see some sort of semblance? Those questions still remain. Harish and Swastika, thanks for getting us those details. Keep tracking those developments for us. Shifting focus to some other stories that we are tracking. Russian troops are showing signs of retreat amid global pressure, but tensions remain high in Ukraine. News agency AFP is now saying that Russian military drills in Moscow-annexed Crimea have ended and soldiers are returning. This comes a day after Russian officials announced a first troop pullback from Ukraine's borders. Russian President Vladimir Putin, and after his meeting with German Chancellor, offered a fresh negotiation proposal to the United States as well as NATO, saying he's against war and Russia will do all it can to secure its national integrity. Meanwhile, in a fresh outreach, US President Joe Biden has said the US and NATO will not pose a threat to Russia, but also comes with a warning: a Russian attack on Ukraine is still very much a possibility. The Embassy of India in Kyiv has now issued an advisory on the 15th of February for Indian nationals in Ukraine. The embassy continues to monitor developments. Discussions are underway with civil aviation authorities and various airlines on how to increase the number of flights between India and Ukraine. Our Foreign Affairs Editor, Maha Siddiqui, now joining us with more details. Maha, we spoke to a number of students yesterday, and this was their biggest concern. One was how the flight prices were increasing and they wanted some sort of an assistance to come in from the Indian side as well. What's the latest that you're picking up?
So what sources are telling us is that the discussions are on with the civil aviation authorities to see if the number of flights can be increased so that this issue can be resolved. However, India, as I have been mentioning, is not hitting the panic button because they feel the assessment at the moment that they have is that the situation is not as critical as is being projected. And this is what the Ukrainian embassy sources also pointed out to CNN News 18, that the situation on the ground is all right. Classes are continuing for students. They are going for offline classes as well. So this is only a recommendation to students that if they feel the need, they can come back. It hasn't been, India has not pressed really the panic button and asked them to immediately evacuate from Ukraine. So this distinction should be drawn over here. As for the queries, because n number of queries are coming to them, the students want to know whether, they should in fact be leaving or not. If the situation is fairly, at this moment, assessment is decent for them to stay on for some time. All those queries are coming. That is why these control rooms are also being set up to answer those queries. So it is a difficult situation on the ground to really assess, but looking at the little bit of de-escalation that we've seen from the Russian side, this is only recommended that the students come back. Since the tickets are also very costly at the moment, they are looking at trying to increase the flights if the students do wish to come back.
Okay, Ma, thanks for getting us all those details. Now, fearing an attack by Russia, Ukrainian civilians are taking up arms to protect their nation. A number of IT professionals, doctors, designers are ready to put their lives on the line to fight the Russians. Let's take a look at this report.
This group of men meets to shoot. It was just a hobby. Now it's for something bigger, their country.
And they're prepared to kind of work in case of a full invasion, so their main responsibility will be to secure the streets, to secure the core buildings and stuff like that, together with army and Ukrainian special forces stuff like that.
But these are civilians that are willing to step into that role and to do that in the streets if necessary.
Yes, exactly. So it's something similar to militia.
Sviat is a trained philologist. He now works in cloud computing IT here in Lviv. Like many here, he has US-based clients, so the time difference allows him to practice shooting in the mornings and go to work afterwards. Timur is also in IT. Dmitro is a doctor. Mikhailo is a graphic designer. Ordinary citizens in this city of more than 700,000, now practicing tactical advances in case they ever need them on the city streets. And Sviat and his friends take this motto on display at the shooting club literally: Lviv, people of action.
If you will look into Ukrainian history, throughout the 20th century, we were fighting against USSR, so we had local guerrilla forces, especially here on Western Ukraine, and we were willing to fight, so I guess that's kind of our heritage.
The president of the Praktika Shooting Club, which has groups across Ukraine, tells us he used to get 5 calls a week from people wanting to learn to shoot. Now, as Putin's armies sit on Ukraine's borders, he says he gets more than 10 times that many. The Lviv Shooting Club adding more training, with 350 people coming this past weekend, people of all ages, ready to defend themselves if needed. Sviat says he taught one boy who was only 11 years old. Sviat's friends have multiple guns. There's no limit on the number of guns you can own in Ukraine. Sviat says his second will be an AR-15. He's hoping he'll only need it for target practice.
On that note, we're slipping into a very short break, coming back with lots more.
The feeling also has been that the government hasn't handled this very well. You allowed the law and order situation to go out of hand, which you should have never allowed. And you have dilly-dallied on opening the schools. Now that the schools and PU colleges especially are finally opening, the law and order onus is purely on the state.
My ram to everyone, and of course not. Of course not. No. You cannot corner government by saying that government was not able to handle law and order situation. That is why it whole thing blew up.
Well, it did.
Proportion.
No, I'm speaking on facts, ma'am. There was stone pelting.
Allow me. I mean,
I'll allow you. I'll allow you. Don't worry. We have a lot of time. We have a lot of time. Don't worry. I'm just elaborating why I asked you this question. In the case of a protest being mounted by 6 school students, look at what the situation eventually became.
All right. Can I now?
Yeah.
All right. You asked me one thing that, rather I'll say you accuse the government and I was answering it. You simply interjected. So allow me. This is what I am saying. It is not the matter of the government. Government tried to control it. Government simply said that whatever the rules and norms are of the school or the educational institute, whether it is a college or a school or any other technical institute or medical institute, the students have to follow that. Simple. Simple thing. But we know it very well that where the whole matter goes, where the roots are, everybody knows in today's date. So this is not a political centric matter now. It is a legislative issue which should be discussed. What is happening in this country?
When you say that we all know where...
Allow me, please, allow me. I'm saying we saw love jihad starting from south of India. And believe me, very soon, this will be hijab jihad. Hindu girls will be asked that you should also wear hijab. And this is what I am saying.
I'll come to
Now
that later, ma'am. I'll come to
Hindu
that
women are being
later.
told, you cannot put bindi, you cannot wear Mangalsutra.
Ma'am,
So,
the larger questions you're asking, I'll come to that. Do not worry. We will talk about those things, where this protest or this insistence on wearing the hijab is taking us. We are not shy of that. But I want to first ask you as the BJP representative, have you all handled this well enough to the extent that Section 144 has to be imposed in various districts? That doesn't say that the law and order situation is fine.
This is what I am saying. It is a conspiracy. And
By
these
whom?
people, they were ready with the toolkit. And we saw that how the things emerged. It started from what would be a small place in Karnataka. Then, just like a wildfire, it went to whole of the country, then internationally. So now this issue has become international. International newspapers are writing on it. And international channels are talking about it. So in today's date, hijab has become victim and Bhagwa has become villain. वो खुश हैं, बहुत खुश हैं. उनको जो जिस चीज के लिए कहा गया है, वो चीज उन्होंने पूरी करके दिखा दी कि hijab is a victim and Bhagwa is a villain. This is what we are observing in today's date.
Okay.
Now Hindus are being told that you are a victim. You are not allowing girls to wear hijab. Who is stopping them to wear hijab? आप hijab में रहिए, बुर्के में बिल्कुल बंद होकर रहिए. कोई नहीं मना कर रहा है. पर जहां आप जा रही हैं, उसके नॉर्म्स को आपको फॉलो करना पड़ेगा. This country is not going to run according to Sharia law. This country is going to run according to the constitution of our country.
Well, that matter is in court and of course the court will decide. But Swati, Anilaji does make a very important point, which is about the hardening of positions, and that is not one-sided. The girls till now, the schools that had started were refusing, several parents are refusing to send their girls to schools now. Even as the court is hearing the matter, they're insisting that without hijab we will not do it. Will classes...
Thanks for staying with us. Some breaking developments now coming in. Union Minister Anurag Thakur and other BJP leaders have now submitted a complaint to the Election Commission, and this is in view of an alleged attack against Union Minister SP Singh Baghel, who's the BJP's candidate, and he's up against Akhilesh Yadav, who's the Samajwadi Party chief, and this is from the Kadhal Assembly constituency. Let's listen in to what Anurag Thakur had to say.
समाजवादी पार्टी की पहली लिस्ट में ही दंगे वाले थे, अपराधियों के नाम थे, या जेल वाले थे या बेल वाले थे. इसलिए दूसरे चरण का ही चुनाव आते आते अखिलेश जी को आजम खान जी की याद आ गई, क्योंकि आजम खान जी को जाना जाता है. उनके पिछले भी कारनामे देख लेंगे तो बूथ कैप्चरिंग, मतदाताओं को डराना धमकाना, ये समाजवादी पार्टी की पुरानी प्रवृत्ति रही है. लेकिन हमने चुनाव आयोग से कहा है कि निष्पक्ष चुनाव हो, भारी मतदान हो, सुरक्षा का वातावरण हो और सीसीटीवी कैमरों की देखरेख में हो और ज्यादा से ज्यादा अर्धसैनिक बलों की तैनाती.
Our Uttar Pradesh Bureau Chief Pranshu is now joining us on the broadcast. While the BJP is submitting a complaint to the EC, give us a better context of what this entire incident was about. What is the BJP alleging as far as the role of Samajwadi Party is concerned?
Well, this incident clearly has two aspects. One is the immediately, the law and order question, that whether the attack took place, who are the people who attacked him, because the FIR is against the unidentified people, and the BJP of course is saying that they were the Samajwadi Party goons. And the second aspect to it is the larger politics. Why, this attack suddenly becomes so important and important enough for Anurag Thakur, the senior cabinet union minister, to lead a delegation to the election commission's door. See, there's two-way thing. One, as far as the incident is concerned, Samajwadi Party is saying that, we have no hand as far as this attack is concerned. They are also trying to raise questions on the very attack itself. BJP says that while Union Minister was, moving in that Karhal constituency yesterday evening, there was a group of around 20 to 25 people who stopped his convoy, assaulted him. Now, the political side, of course, is that now the election from phase 3 onwards is strictly about the caste movement. There is the strong Yadav, constituency in that region, Etawah and Manpuri. There is also a strong section of Dalits and the other OBCs. And therefore, when BJP talks about an attack on a union minister, that too coming in from a Dalit community, it not just brings back the focus on the law and order question that has been often associated to the Samajwadi Party. The fact that BJP often says that Samajwadi Party is synonymous to goons and gundas, and I think that is also the narrative which BJP wants to emphasize now. And on the caste front, it can actually channelize the larger debate, a polarization as far as the caste dynamics are concerned. A Dalit minister being assaulted by people or the party which is said to have a strong base among the Yadavs or the OBCs. So I think that could also be the larger narrative on which BJP might be focusing as far as the larger electoral politics is concerned.
Pranshu, thanks for getting us all those details. Shifting focus to some other stories that we're tracking. Abhishek Banerjee has denied all claims of a rift with TMC Supremo Mamata Banerjee. Now, speaking exclusively to News18, the West Bengal Chief Minister's nephew has stated that Mamata is his leader and guiding light. This comes a few days after Mamata Banerjee formed a new 20-member National Working Committee amid a discord between her nephew and other senior TMC leaders over his one-man, one-post policy. Abhishek Banerjee's position as the party national secretary was also dissolved in this emergency meeting by Mamata Banerjee, but he has reiterated that he will continue to work according to the directions of Mamata Banerjee. Kamalika is joining us with more details. Kamalika, you had a long chat with Abhishek Banerjee. We saw hectic developments over the weekend as far as this meeting at Mamata Banerjee's residence took place. What's the word coming in from Abhishek Banerjee? Is all well?
Absolutely. Abhishek Banerjee has his point. That's what he told me, that he is the party's lieutenant. He is the party's soldiers. He will abide by whatever direction is there from the party. And definitely his mentor is Mamata Banerjee. And Mamata Banerjee has given birth to this party. So he will follow. She is a guiding light to him as well as the Trinamool Congress party. So there is the reports and the narrative which has been said to some extent that there is a difference between Abhishek Banerjee and Mamata Banerjee. That is all not right. That is all wrong. That's what he has clearly told me, that there is no point that there will be any difference of opinion because Mamata Banerjee is his ideal and he follows her in every way, and she has actually given him the lesson of politics. So the difference which we could understand is not basically between Mamata Banerjee and Abhishek Banerjee, but obviously one section of senior leaders in the party and Abhishek Banerjee, because there are certain things. If we see from 2019 to 2021, when the party was not doing well because of Lok Sabha elections, BJP got a couple of seats. That point of time, Abhishek Banerjee was handling the back office of the Trinamool Congress party, and he went everywhere for the campaign. The party was, the Prashant Kishore came in, and the party got a little bit of structure. There were structural changes, and that helped. That there was good results for that. That point of time, this section of senior leaders, they were only concentrating their own constituencies. Now, there this insecurity started coming in, that after the result, he became the National General Secretary. And this one man, one post means decentralization of power.
So at least for now, Abhishek Banerjee coming out and saying that all is well as far as the TMC is concerned. Kamalika, thanks for getting us all those details. We're ending this show with a tribute to singer-composer Bappi Lahiri, the man with the golden touch. He passed away late last night in Mumbai after a prolonged illness, but his music will live on. Thanks for watching.
तो झूमो तो नाचो और मेरे
go. I am a disco dancer. आज रपट जाए तो हमें ना उठाइयो, आज फिसल जाए तो हमें ना उठाइयो, हमें जो उठाइयो तो।
Good afternoon and welcome. You're watching CNN News 18. I'm Ratangshu Bhattacharya. The big story remains the battle for Punjab, the state which goes to polls in just 4 days from today. Elections are on the head and all parties have intensified their campaigns. Now, on one hand, the Congress has gotten into an offensive mode after realizing that the biggest threat in the state is actually the Aam Aadmi Party. The Congress has roped in youth Congress leaders like Srinivas, Sandeep Dikshit and Alka Lamba to counter the Aam Aadmi Party. Yet, while all this has been going on, Charanjit Singh Channi, the Chief Minister, has stirred a massive controversy. He has said that the Congress, and I'm quoting him here, that the Congress will not allow bhaiyas from UP, Bihar and Delhi to rule Punjab. What has made it even more trickier for the Congress is that Priyanka Gandhi had also targeted Kejriwal and Modi and said they've come to Punjab to wear fake turbans and assert the identity. Listen in to what Channi had to say and then some reactions of Arvind Kejriwal and the BJP to that.
ये बहुत शर्म की बात है कि किसी भी ये हमारा पूरा देश एक है, किसी भी व्यक्ति को, मेरे को भी वो काला 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 कहते रहते हैं, किसी भी व्यक्ति के बारे में, किसी भी वर्ग विशेष के बारे में गलत टिप्पणी करना, हम इसकी कड़ी निंदा करते हैं।
प्रियंका गांधी भी तो यूपी को बिलोंग करती है, तो
वो भी तो भैया हो गई।
उत्तर प्रदेश ने गांधी नेहरू परिवार को 4-4 पीढ़ियों तक किसी न किसी पद पर, शीर्ष पद तक पहुंचाने का काम किया, लेकिन मौका देखते ही गांधी परिवार के सदस्य उत्तर प्रदेश को अपमानित करने से पीछे नहीं हटते हैं। कल प्रियंका गांधी जी के समय पंजाब के मुख्यमंत्री ने उत्तर प्रदेश और उत्तर प्रदेश के लोगों का जो अपमानजनक बयान दिया है और इसको लेकर आपत्ति व्यक्त नहीं प्रियंका जी ने की, बल्कि हंसना शुरू कर दिया। क्या उत्तर प्रदेश का अपमान कांग्रेस के नेता ऐसे ही करेंगे?
चन्नी जी, आपने जो ये उत्तर प्रदेश, बिहार और दिल्ली के लोगों के लिए अभद्र भाषा प्रयोग किया है, मैं मनोज तिवारी उसकी निंदा करता हूं और इसकी निंदा पंजाब के लोग भी करेंगे, पूरे देश के लोग करेंगे। लेकिन आपकी इस छोटी सोच के बाद एक सवाल उठता है कि उत्तर प्रदेश में प्रियंका दीदी आपकी कैसे प्रचार करेंगी, कैसे उत्तर प्रदेश से वोट मांगेंगी? ये कांग्रेस की वही पुरानी मुगलों वाली सोच है कि फूट डालो और शासन करो। चन्नी जी, ये आपकी अभद्र भाषा ये पंजाब और पंजाबियों की नहीं हो सकती है।
Let's now go across to our Lucknow bureau chief Pranshu Mishra is joining us live at this point. Pranshu, will the fact that Priyanka Gandhi was seen in this clip standing next to Charanjit Singh Channi, something which the BJP has been at pains to highlight, affect the party's chances in Uttar Pradesh, where, let's be honest, Priyanka Gandhi is the main face of the party?
Well, it is quite difficult to say that whether that remark is actually going to play a big role in Uttar Pradesh's politics. The reason being, this election is increasingly being seen as a bipolar one between the BJP and the Samajwadi Party. We all, for that matter, even the people at large realize that, the Congress is not in a race, any significant race as far as the 2022 challenge is concerned. Many people will say that the homework which Priyanka Gandhi is doing right now in Uttar Pradesh, they are contesting on all 403 seats. Priyanka Gandhi is actively involved in campaigning. That is more an effort to lay a strong base as far as the 2024 challenge is concerned. So the question is that whether the attack on the Congress party or the mistake that has been made by the Congress leadership, what has been said by Punjab CM, will it last long enough to have an impact in the distant future? Because in the immediate context, it is not going to have much of an impact because Congress party anyhow is not a major stakeholder as far as the UP polls is concerned. And I think that, for Bharatiya Janata Party, attacking the Congress on this issue clearly means that, they clearly want to stem out any possibilities of Priyanka Gandhi trying to making inroads in Uttar Pradesh, maybe at the present or beyond that. And we also heard how Anurag Thakur also dragged in Samajwadi Party by reminding people what Mamata Banerjee had recently said. So I think BJP wants to focus both on the Congress as well as on the Akhilesh Yadav on the issue of so-called insult to the people of Uttar Pradesh.
All right, Pranju, thanks a lot for getting us that perspective from Uttar Pradesh. Now let's get you perspectives from political circles as well as from analysts as well. Joining me is Dr. Sarwan Singh Channi, who's spokesperson of the BJP. Also joining me is Rashid Kidwai, eminent author and journalist, and Professor D.K. Giri, who is a political analyst as well. Rashid Kidwai, coming to you first, is this perhaps a self-goal which the Congress could have easily avoided, given the fact that it still hopes to retain its status as a national party and not as a regional state-specific party?
While I find it absolutely distasteful and uncalled for, this comment should not be made, but there is lot of whataboutery is there. The whole thing about that 80-20 aspect and so many things have been spoken by several people, so that election commission needs to be consistent and be very strong about all these utterances, and people should be taken to the task, because people make these kind of remarks because they know that they can get away with it. The fact of the matter is, it also needs to be, if somebody is speaking in Punjabi, you need to see what's the manner, what is the intent. I mean, I am from UP, I am a UP bhaiya. I am saying that a lot of people say it with out of affection. Whether it is derogatory in nature, I leave it to other people to decide. But prima facie, this is wrong, this should not happen. But people who are criticizing it, they should look in their own backyard. Apne gareban mein jhaak ke dekhe, what are they saying? What are their utterances? This is the utter violation of model code of conduct.
Okay. Dr. Sarwan Singh Channi, one would argue that people from UP and Bihar are often called bhaiya in colloquial terms, even something, and it's been done, some would say, even with a degree of affection as well. Is it necessary to really see it as an insult when perhaps it was not intended to be one?
Basically, this bhaiya thing is, it depends in which context you are saying. And if you refer to the remarks which Mr. Channi was making in the presence of Madam Priyanka Gandhi, he was in a hatred manner, was telling that I won't let, or we should not let people from UP, Bihar to rule Punjab. And he was making a special mention of Mr. Kejriwal and Raghav Chadda, who comes from UP. And he was trying to demean the people of our own country.
But Dr. Channi, all he said, all Mr. Channi said, the Chief Minister Mr. Channi said, was that we will not allow outsiders from Delhi, from Bihar, from UP to come and rule over Punjab. One could say that yes, there's a point. Why should Punjab be ruled or governed, to be more precise, by anyone outside Punjab?
No, we are governed by a constitution, and there is no provision in the constitution. If a Punjabi can be the President of India, a Punjabi can be, the Prime Minister of India, and what is he really talking? These migrant workers, especially, who are the base of the Punjab economy, I think they come to Punjab because they can afford maybe fare from UP to Punjab. Okay. And we, in the same manner, we go to Canada. And we have been there as a migrant workers, and we were doing all these kind of menial jobs. And if we can take pride, the premiers there, then the defense minister, then now Mr. Jagmeet Singh trying to become the Prime Minister of Canada, if we can aspire like that, why can't, even the people from UP and all, they can come, and if they are popular and they have some policies, they have some roadmap, they have some plan, and they are known for that, and they are not known for collecting, sand mafia money of rupees 10 crore, which was recovered from his nephew. So I think we need people who can run the state, it's not like that somebody is disqualified or somebody is qualified.
Professor D.K. Giri, okay, all right. Dr. Channi, we get your point. Let me just also get in Professor D.K. Giri into this conversation. Professor Giri, again, let's be honest, often these comments are made which would come across as outrageous or insulting for the rest of the country, but when it comes to getting local or perhaps